Good morning, and welcome to Mornings with Nate. This is, I always kind of give you a little update on what my evening has been like, but it's kind of funny that yesterday was kind of uneventful. I left here late last night, well, late, relatively late, be late for having to get up as early in the morning as I get up. And many of you might have seen the show, Culturally Conscious Narratives, which was hosted by Derek Burnett. Derek and I produced that show for Derek. It went from 7 to 8 p.m. last night, and then he and I talked for a little while, and I was really pleased. And one of the viewers called me and talked to me the entire way home. He may well join us today. Robert Scott out of Atlanta, Georgia. Really enjoyed the conversation. And then, as usual, I run in the house and I try my best to, as quickly as possible, get into bed. Because again, I get up at about 3:15. It takes me about an hour to get ready. Then I'm out the door and I try to be here about 4:45, so that I can launch the broadcast by 6. But about 1:30 in the morning, I got this really awful cramp in my leg. And, I got me up out of bed. Well, no, I know some of you out there may be worried. It's not like a blood clot or anything like that. I've had a couple of health challenges, so I take some blood thinners and, it's kind of, not that. But so what it is that it's been so cold here in Maryland, in Baltimore in particular, that I wear these gigantic heavy boots every day. And these boots are like ankle weights. And I think that because I walk around in them so much during the day, that I'm probably overextending the muscles in my leg, as I kind of build up the strength. And I thought about that. So what you normally do if you get those kind of cramps is you run and you try to find some potassium. And what I do, immediately I Googled it to see what I might have had around the house that might have had a little potassium in it, so that I could take it to get that cramp to go away. And so I did. I found some walnuts and had some yogurt and stuff, and it did the trick. Before I knew it, I was asleep again, and the cramp had gone. But what I did, which is not the smartest thing to do, when you wake up at 1:30 or so in the morning, you got to get back up at 3:15. Is that I grabbed my cell phone and I looked at it, and it turned out to be a tremendous blessing, because normally if I grab my cell phone and I start looking at stuff, before I know it, it's 3:15 in the morning. It's time for me to go. It's so late that it's not even worth trying to go back to sleep. And the blessing turned out that I saw an old friend had returned my instant message, Barney Joe Wilson. Barney and I went to school together. We both graduated from the school in Baltimore called Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. And Baltimore Polytechnic Institute is one of the greatest schools, I'll put it that way, one of the most highly regarded schools in the country. And so we both are graduates, but Barney did something that was exceptional. He continued throughout his educational career, and he became principal of the school. Now, you can imagine that you graduate from the school like Poly, and then you come back as his principal. That was tremendous. Since that time, he's gone on to do any number of things. Right now, he's teaching over in Nigeria, and he is going to join us. I'm going to bring him on the line with us right now. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm so much better than when we were instant messaging each other this morning.
Yeah, I was sorry to hear about your leg.
Oh, yeah, it's just, it was just one of the things. I really think it's these heavy boots that I'm wearing that, it's kind of like ankle weights all the time. And I'm kind of a tennis shoe guy for the most part. So it was kind of a transition with all the ice and everything that we have here in Baltimore. And I think that's what caused the cramp. But when I took that potassium and it kind of went right away, and then I fell asleep on the couch. And then I looked at my phone. It was like 3:15. I said, time to make the donuts, time to get rolling. So, but I praise God, because I kind of say, well, it was just meant for me to see your message at that time and to be able to get you on the show today. And it really is a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. I think God works in mysterious ways.
He certainly does. He certainly does. Now, you probably heard me say to the viewers, and by the way, you're going out to a lot of viewers, actually. The way it works is that you're going out to all the viewers of the We, all the viewers of any page that I control. And believe it or not, when you go live through me, you're going out to any Facebook people that you know. So, it's a fair amount of people. Now, having said that, keep in mind, it is 6 a.m. in the morning. So yes. I don't know how many folks are actually, are up. But I do have some what I call my social media dogs who roll with me. My friends who actually set their clock for 6 a.m. in the morning. They know I'm going to be here. And they have been a tremendous help to me in kind of letting me know if they're not hearing me or if something's happening within the broadcast, I need to make an adjustment. So I know for a fact, in fact, I've come to start to use my phone quite a bit, because what they do is they send me comments, and then I can see those comments on the phone, and I can also see us live on the phone and know that we're doing something and know that we're kind of getting out there. So I'm, my setup here, I've got a lot of different things going on to make the broadcast and send it out in multiple streams. I want to take you back a little bit. When we were in high school, did you ever imagine that one day that you would be principal of the very high school that you were going to?
No. One, it was an honor to be a student at that school. I think you mentioned it was the Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, certainly one of the premier schools in the country. It's famous for so many reasons, but right now I have reason to believe that it is the top school in the country for sending students of color into engineering, science, and math and technology fields. And so that's quite an accomplishment. When you and I went there, it was very diverse. It still remains diverse. But when you look at students of color, particularly African-American students, no other school in the country produces more engineers, technologists, mathematicians, and scientists in the Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. So it was an honor to not only graduate from there, but to go on, to come back to become the principal, then also to see my daughters actually attend the school there. Wow. And my nephews and nieces attended school there. So it's a family thing. And to serve as their principal while they were there was also remarkable.
Wow. That is great. When I think back on our time at Poly, the year, I think it was maybe my junior year that we admitted the first woman. And for those of you who don't know, we didn't mention it. Poly was an all-boys school, all-men's school for most of its history. And that year, I think my junior year, the first female, and it was only one female. And she was the first one. Now, I don't know the ratio, but I know there's quite a few females who go there.
It's about 50%. Now, actually, that year, so one came in that year, but by the time she graduated, there were two. There was one African-American, Pamela Simmons, and one Caucasian, Martha Rickey. Mm-hmm. So they were the first two female graduates from Poly. And Pamela Simmons actually went on to Carnegie Mellon University, which is where I went for school, and she became an engineer and is doing very well.
Mm-hmm. Well, take me through that as well. You went on to Carnegie Mellon when you left Poly.
Yes. Yeah. I studied my undergraduate degree was earned there. It took 4 years. I had a triple major and a minor. So I majored in electrical engineering, economics, and mathematics, and had a minor in business. But I went there because many other Poly students went there before me. So students who graduated in your class were my role models at the time. Great men like Michael Alston, Chuck McDaniel, Marcus Savage. And these names don't mean a lot to the people who are listening, but it's always important to have role models who you can kind of pattern your life after. Certainly I was looking at a lot of the things that you were doing, Nate, and you are remarkable. And so I'm just very happy to be on your show and to be your friend.
Well, thank you very much. I am surprised, quite frankly, at the people that I know who are from Baltimore who have gone on to Pittsburgh to Carnegie Mellon. People like Stan Tucker. I had no idea that Stan had a master's degree from Carnegie Mellon until we started talking. Larry Jennings, who attended Carnegie Mellon. Guys who didn't go through Poly, but just were part of.
No. Larry Jennings is a Poly graduate.
Oh, is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I've known Larry for a long time. I believe that I served as one of his mentors. And that's what I'm talking about. Leaders mentoring leaders is so important. And somehow our paths cross for a reason. Just like, the phone call last night, it was meant to be. Those paths crossed for a reason.
Well, I believe that 100%. Now, tell me, you're right now in Nigeria. What part of Nigeria?
I'm in a place called Kwara State. It's between Abuja and Lagos. If you know Nigeria, Abuja and Lagos are two of the major cities. Lagos used to be the capital, and now Abuja is the capital. So these are two primary cities within Nigeria. Kwara State is right in the middle. I'm in a place called Offa, Offa. And I'm actually serving, I just want to correct something you said earlier. I'm not teaching, I'm serving as the principal.
Oh, wow.
At a private boarding school here in Nigeria.
Yes, that's fantastic. What was your journey? Did you think that once at some point I'd like to serve in education outside of the United States borders, or what was your path to Africa?
Yeah, it was kind of weird. So I'm an engineer. I have an MBA, and now I have a doctoral degree in education. I never thought that I would go into education. I've owned several businesses. Had a cleaning business, a landscaping business, a championship wrestling federation. I own a roller skating ring. So I'm an entrepreneur. One day I was at a college in Baltimore called Coppin State University. And I had the contract to paint the president's house, clean the windows on campus. That day, I was frustrated with my work crew because I left them there to clean the windows on the campus. They ran out of materials and they sat under a tree all day.
Wow.
So on that day, I said a prayer. I said, Lord, show me another way. What else am I supposed to be doing? And I never realized that I was on a college campus. I was just seeing the dollars associated with the contract that I had on the campus, but I never stopped to think, hey, I'm really on a college campus. So that day I talked to a lady and I said, well, what would it take for me to teach here at Coppin State University? And so she looked at me, I was really dirty from doing landscaping that day. I was planting trees and that type of thing. And she says, well, I don't know if you could teach here. I said, yeah, I probably could teach here. And so I said, what are the credentials needed? She said, well, you have to have a master's degree. I said, well, I have a master's degree. She said, what could you teach? I said, I can teach anything, really. So I went over to the administrative offices. They looked at me, I was filthy dirty, and they said, what do you want? I said, I want to teach here. They said, I don't think you could teach here. I said, yeah, I could probably teach here. And they said, well, what could you teach? I said, I don't think there's anything that I can't teach. And they said, can you teach COBOL programming? I said, yeah, I can teach COBOL programming. I'm an engineer. So they hired me on Friday. I started teaching on Monday. So that was my segue into education. From there, I went on to run a community college in Baltimore called Dundalk Community College. And one day I saw an ad that said, principal of the Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, looking for a talented leader. I applied for the position and was fortunate enough to get the position. And that's how I got into the K through 12 aspect of education.
Well, that's fantastic. Because you didn't come up through the normal ranks of Baltimore City Public Schools.
I never intended to do that. Yeah.
You had a segue. I want to recognize Tim Polk, by the way, who is actually one of my old students, and he's watching us as well. Tim's an entrepreneur. He runs a home renovation firm called Tim Possible, not impossible, but Tim Possible. Tim Polk. So, tell me about the school there and your path to becoming principal.
Okay, so the name of the school here is Adesowe College. You can probably see it in the backdrop.
Yes.
Adesowe College is a private boarding school here in Nigeria. It has about 300 students. the students are the children of some of the wealthiest Nigerians. So it's a school that there's an entrance exam to get in, like Poly has an entrance exam. It's a school that is extremely rigorous. And so they hired me to not make the school Americanized, but to add to the culture of the school that already existed. So this school is 30 years old. It's an excellent school. I believe it's the Vanguard flagship school here in Nigeria. So the graduates from here go on to Harvard, MIT, schools in the UK, schools in
Speaking of MIT, by the way, I'm just going to segue. I try to recognize people as they come in. Yin-Pei Tay, who I met when I was up at MIT, is watching us. I just want to give him a nice little shout out. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, let me give a shout out to MIT also. There are three rings that I really respect. I respect the Baltimore Polytechnic High School ring. We have a parrot on the side of it. Whenever I see that ring, I know it's a person who's very smart. I respect our rival school. I've never mentioned their name. It's from the other school, so I won't mention their name now. And then the third ring that I respect is MIT's ring. Whenever I see someone with that ring on, I know that that's a smart person. So whoever is there from MIT, my hat's off to you. Congratulations.
Yeah, Barney, I don't know if you know, but I was up at MIT for a while. They had a teaching certification program. They were running entrepreneurship, and I was fortunate enough to go up there and be selected into the first year of the program, and met a tremendous number of people, and many of them kind of come in. As I mentioned, that the broadcast goes out to a lot of different places, including groups I belong to, and I belong to a number of different MIT groups. So, periodically they may come in and just say hello.
Outstanding.
But again, I didn't mean to interrupt the school and kind of your path to being a principal.
I was principal. I left Baltimore and I traveled to San Diego. So I lived in San Diego for 3 years. I worked for UCSD, University of California, San Diego, in the admissions office. So my job was to recruit minority students, so African Americans, Native Americans, and Latino students, and to deal with some of the issues that campus was having at the time. So my job title was Director of Strategic Initiatives. And so from there, I traveled to North Carolina and worked for a minute in the educational system there. But then I was on the internet and I had heard about a program called Teach Away. And Teach Away provides opportunities for educators to work internationally. And so there were opportunities in Taiwan, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, the UK, Canada, etc. And then I saw one ad for a school in Nigeria. And I said, wow, now that's exciting. I've been to Africa before. I visited Ghana, but I never visited Nigeria. And so this was an opportunity for me to serve our people. To serve and to learn at the same time, to learn about the Nigerian culture and to come here in a position of leadership. So I had no idea what to expect, no idea what, language was the primary language, but, there was a calling. And I think, again, when you're called to do something, when there's a call for leadership, you answer the call. So I answered the call, interviewed, had a couple of Skype interviews, and got the job. So when I came here, it was amazing. Today is Friday, is traditional Friday in terms of wearing traditional wear. And so, I had several outfits made. This is one of them. And I just feel blessed and very happy to be here. I love serving students anyways, but to serve students in Nigeria is just a blessing.
How does the curriculum compare to what you're teaching at your school to what one might expect here in the United States?
Yeah, so the schools here are extremely rigorous. They don't have access to the types of technology that we had at Poly, for example. When I was at Poly, I created a lab called Robart. So it was a combination of robotics and art in the same lab. I created a computer animation, computer graphics, and music studio. and had the opportunity to learn about, flight and the dynamics associated with aerodynamics. So here, those technologies aren't really available. However, the students, what I'm finding is that the moral values are higher. The moral ethic is higher. That's why it's so painful when you hear the types of statements that the president just made about countries in Africa. I think he really doesn't know. He doesn't know how dedicated Africans are to education. When I visited Ghana, years ago, when I worked for the community college, I was amazed. I went into the library. Every library seat was taken. Every seat was taken. I looked at the students' notes. Every note was neat. Africans take education very seriously. I was so proud when I watched CNN that one of the commentators pointed out that the Africans who travel to America, 60% of them have degrees. So they're highly educated. So to get here, to look at the curriculum, so what can I add? There are things that we do in America that benefit Nigeria. In America, we had Common Core, which was pushing education to a different level. So there are little teeny things that I can add here and there to benefit the Nigerians, to make them more international and to expand their horizons. So I'm here just to expand their horizons.
Can we go back to that point you said about the president a little and the kind of things that get said here? How are they interpreted there? The people just kind of brush them off, or are they looked at very seriously? How does what he said, what he says, interpreted?
Yeah, it's very painful. It's very painful. People here actually love America. They value American traits and American culture. Many Nigerians, many Africans want to travel to America. Many would like to live in America. And so for the president of the United States to make a statement like that, it was very, very painful. I had to look at my students and try to explain what the president could possibly be thinking. Again, so you look at the values and the culture. When you hear something like that, which is such an alarming and outrageous statement, you're really talking about people, real people. Just like the people who were suffering in Puerto Rico. Those are real people who really need help, who are looking to America to be a beacon of light, a beacon of hope. And the admiration that Nigerians have for America is overwhelming. So to hear that type of comment was very painful for Nigerians.
What's it like on a day-to-day basis living in Nigeria? I've seen you post some things on Facebook. I saw one particular picture you had of a rodent that I thought was pretty funny. But what is the life like there in terms of getting around, restaurants, and just life?
Yeah, it's not home in terms of food and things that I'm used to. We have Wegmans, for example, in the U.S. Shopping food store called Wegmans, and stores like that where you go in and everything is in the store. So here, those options are not here. So I always just try to get a semblance at home. So one of the things is the food is different. The food here is very spicy. The meat is a little tough, tougher than what I'm used to. So I'm trying to carve out my piece of home here. So I grew my own garden, for example. So I'm growing tomatoes, cucumbers, collard greens, things that I'm used to, But the weather is perfect. It's about 95 degrees every day. So it feels like San Diego. San Diego is about 75 degrees. So the weather is hot. The air is clean because there isn't a lot of industrial germs and dirt. So the weather is clean. The people are very proud. So a lot of them dress culturally every day. Ladies are ladies. You never see any cleavage. You don't see any skin. So they're covered up. It's just, it's a great place to be. Sometimes it's a little dangerous if you're a foreigner. So I always try to watch where I go and what I do. I don't spend a lot of time in the marketplace. I never realized that my accent is so thick. Americans have an accent, and we're around each other every day and we don't hear it. But here, people don't sound like me, so I stick out like a sore thumb. So I have to kind of watch where I go and what I do.
That's very interesting. We just have a couple of people who are looking to get online. We may have some people who come online and ask some direct questions of you. But when you look at kind of the potential to be an entrepreneur, I mean, you've been a serial entrepreneur yourself. What do you think the potential is to go to Africa, to go where you are, and to make relationships, to form connections, and to actually start a business there? How difficult is that?
One, you have to have the right heart. So if you're coming to Africa, you should come respectfully. The people here are very respectful, and sometimes we're not. So you have to come and be very respectful. The amount of resources here are incredible. When I drive up and down the road, or I have a driver, when we're up and down the road, I see cocoa. I see all types. I see palm trees. I see all types of natural resources here. So the opportunities for entrepreneurship are huge. The companies that are coming to Nigeria are doing well. For example, Cold Stone Ice Cream is here. Domino's Pizza is here. KFC is here in terms of food. Those, because Nigerians love America and they love American things, they can't get enough of those types of things. So if you're in business, and a lot of our business processes are needed here. Some of our business entrepreneurial thinking is needed here. I used to run the small business development centers in Central Maryland. And so that type of knowledge of how to start a business, some of those skill sets are needed here. So if you're a trainer, if you have a product to sell, if you have a service to offer, Africa is the new horizon. Africa is the market. There are millions and millions of people here who want products and services. If you are, for example, my background also includes telecom. So I used to work for AT&T. I used to work for MCI. I helped to design the MCI telephone network. So that whole telecom thing is a challenge here. Most of the people here live off of a generator. So if you are someone who really understands electricity, you understand power, there's a great opportunity to come here and start power engineering to help fix the electrical system here. So, there's a big need for entrepreneurial people, but there's also a big need for companies to come here and to establish a presence. There are many companies that have a base in Lagos. McKinsey, for example, has an office in Lagos. Those companies are doing well.
Are you seeing other countries outperform Americans in terms of establishing themselves and establishing businesses that is in Africa? I've seen some writings about how aggressive the Chinese happen to be in Africa. Are you seeing any evidence of that?
Well, here in Nigeria, I see Indians, I see some Asians, I see Americans, and I see many people from the UK. But the opportunity is huge. Just try to connect, believe in what you're doing and come here and connect. There's a need here for whatever you do. There's a need here for it.
Now, have you decided to kind of make that area your home, or can we expect you to return back to the United States at some point?
Well, now that I've have a taste of international life, I do have a curiosity about Abu Dhabi and Dubai. I'm visiting back and forth, and it's just amazing. When I look at the need, for example, when I'm on the plane going to Abu Dhabi, there's a lot of Nigerians who go to Abu Dhabi and Dubai to get products to bring back to sell. So if you, for example, work for Amazon, right now, Amazon doesn't have a big presence here in Nigeria. What an opportunity for Amazon and a company like that to bring products in. Right now, people are traveling to get things to sell in the store. In America, we're spoiled. We want something, we order it, and it comes to our doorstep. That doesn't happen here. So I am curious about Abu Dhabi and Dubai. I just joined the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. I think I'm the first African American, first person of color to join the Louvre, and I visited there several times already. But when I go there, it's so much promise. I mean, it's very modern, very clean. The people are very international in their thinking, extremely diverse. And so if I ever leave Africa, I will probably go and live in Abu Dhabi or Dubai.
Well, that's quite the statement. You know, I have to say that I too have one of the things on my bucket list to do is to live abroad and to test that out. You know, I've certainly visited a lot of places, but I never really lived in those places. So I really admire what you're doing and admire the fact that a guy from Baltimore who I went to high school with has had the journey that you've had, and that now in Africa, I believe, well, if I was there, I'd say, hey, look, could I sleep in a room? Get started over in Africa.
Yeah, well, I have a 3-bedroom place here. Anyone who comes over is certainly welcomed. You know, we'll pick you up at the airport and you'll be treated like a king.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to anyone, aspiring entrepreneur or aspiring professional, who is looking to perhaps come to Africa to do their business or to expand their career?
Yeah, I would say that probably everyone who's listening to this broadcast, everyone who's looking at it, knows somebody who's from Nigeria. Mm-hmm. You know, someone who's from South Africa. You know, someone from Ghana. I would really have a deeper conversation with them to try to figure out how you can connect with the motherland. You know, how do you go about connecting your product or your service? And you can even offer some things online. So the opportunity to connect is easy. Just talk to someone who's from Africa. You know, Africans are very, very approachable. They're very, very smart people. And most of them are entrepreneurial. You know, when you look at the women here, for example, 85% of the females here are entrepreneurial. Mm-hmm. You know, they're selling grain, they're selling something. And the men are very entrepreneurial. So from entrepreneur to entrepreneur, it's like talking to your brother or your sister. Wow. So there's many ways to connect. You just make the connection. Mm-hmm. If all else fails, you know, send me something on Facebook and I'll help you to make the connection.
Well, that's fantastic. Barney, I want to thank you for coming on the broadcast this morning. I promised I wouldn't keep you longer than a half hour. You know, I'm so glad that we were able to connect this morning. And thank you. Before I cut off, if you have any final words you'd like to say to our audience, feel free. And then we'll try to connect with you at some point in the future. Any final words?
No, I just, I value being an American. I value friendship. I really appreciate you, Nate. And any friend of yours is a friend of mine. So I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. And whatever Nate is doing, I want to be a part of that. And so if I can help anyone in any way, I'm a very humble public servant. That's what I do. So if I can help you in any way, shape, or form, I'm willing to do that.
Well, let me tell you, I was just about to mention his name, and he just popped in the comment section because I know that he is a fan of yours, and you're one of his heroes, and that's Alexis Coates.
Alexis, I love you, man.
He just popped in.
Yes.
He's saying, good morning to good friends. That was his comment that I see here. So I'm surprised that he hasn't clicked on the link and joined the conversation. Yeah, at some point, I'm sure he will. So thank you again, Barney. And thank you for all you've done. Thank you for your journey. And thank you for being the ambassador over there and the help that you're giving everyone over there. And I appreciate you being a part of our broadcast. Thank you again.
Okay, take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that was fantastic. You know, it was great to see him and to really talk to someone who's taken the journey. And I have so many friends, and many of you out there probably do too, who think it's a big deal when they just leave the state. And Barney has been someone who has left the country and has established himself overseas. And Alexis says, love you too, good friend. If you are still looking at the broadcast out there, Barney. So he is someone who Barney is someone who has helped a tremendous number of people and is so extremely highly thought of. I wanted to connect with Barney because I believe it's important to do exactly what he said. Wherever you might be listening to the broadcast, if you're in Florida or Texas or many of my friends who are throughout the country, one of the things that you need to really keep in the back of your mind is, can I export my service? And we have another show that's Chapman Means Business, and this show isn't dominated by business, although we talk about it a lot. But in the back of my mind, I've done some business outside the United States, but I sure would like to do more. And I'm just excited about the prospect of being able to get to any country. Yesterday we were talking to South Korea. I love people, so to be able to do business with Koreans overseas. Today we're talking about Africa. We've got a ton of comments. I wish. Now, Barney, if you're still listening, you may see some of these comments if you check the page. Alexis is saying, I'm so blessed to see you two guys in the broadcast talking. Derek Burnett, who did the show last night, a culturally conscious narrative. Barney is a great guy and resource. Thank you for that comment. But I do believe that all of us should be looking at whether or not we could export our services. It's great that you want to do things here in the United States, and it's the largest market in the world. But sometimes there are things that are doing well overseas that you want to be a part of when our economy isn't doing well. So the whole diversification of having revenue streams, that's a big key to staying in business. We jump right into it. And I always have a few news stories, more or less, in any particular day. As you guys know, part of what I used to do back in my younger days, and I had a younger day picture up there. I didn't make a reference to that. That was me when I had hair. And I put it back up there just so you could see what I'm talking about. I put that picture up. Oh, it's almost like a before and after. Oh, Dorian Gray kind of aging thing. But that's me back in my younger investment banking days, pushing hard and charging hard. That photo is one that I think is going to be in the book that I've mentioned that I'm writing. I'm going to get into the news stories, but I mentioned to you guys that I have a book that's going to be coming out, The Chapman Company Story. And you can put your name in the email list if you get a chance. So when it does come out, I've kind of finished the first draft, got a couple more drafts, honestly, to do, and get it edited and then get it out there to you, which talks about the Chapman Company story and my part of it, of how a person kind of has an idea and takes it all the way to become a public company, as we did, and did a number of public offerings, thousands of other people's deals, and then did our own. So that's going to be out there. If you go to the Chapman Company Story, that's the whole thing with the THE in it, the ChapmanCompanyStory.com, and put your name in. I'll let you know when that's complete. So I threw a few different pictures out there this morning. A lot of times I'll throw some pictures of just the early morning hours of what I see sometimes and just coming in, because it's kind of interesting. Things are quiet and there's not much movement out there. I am shocked at how many lights I actually make coming until I hit the Beltway, because it's just simply when I'm on the road, there's not very many people out there. But just to touch on a few news stories, and by the way, just to remind you, this show is a two-way talk format. My hope is that more of you will do just like Dr. Wilson did and join and click on the link and join us, and that we can chew the fat. If you heard me say, I used to do two-way talk radio, and this is kind of an evolution of that, a global evolution, because two-way talk radio has its limitations. Radio has its limitations on how far it can broadcast, and notwithstanding internet radio, certainly radio, when I used to do it, had its limitations, where social media does not. As you follow the show, Chapman Means Business is a show that we do daily at about 5 o'clock from 5 to 6. Today, we're going to have Leah Beverly from First National Bank on the show, and she's going to be talking about some issues, and we look forward to having her to join us. But what happens is that we talk to people from all over the world, and social media is not limited to just a limited broadcast the way radio is. And so our two-way talk, I'm hoping, will not be limited either. That wherever you might be, I'm hoping that not only will you send us a comment, and we're very pleased that Daryl Chapman is watching. Daryl, thank you for joining us. But wherever you might be, feel free to click on that link and download the app, sign in through Facebook. Those are like the 3 steps to join us, and do that. And we'd be happy to talk to you about almost any subject. As you know, when in the two-way talk format, we may be talking about relationships 1 second and sports the next. So I just want to invite you all to do that, to come on board and to do that. And by the way, as you notice, we're picking up content. There are more and more people who are joining the show, and we're producing their voice. You'll see more of that. Our goal as a business strategy is to go 24/7. So we're looking, let us help you. I mean, it's fairly complex to put on a Facebook Live show, and one that kind of projects on other platforms like YouTube or Instagram, including the graphics and other transitions and stuff like that. If you want to do it, let us produce it for you. Give me your email, and we'll see what we can do to get your voice out there. Nate, my email address is Nate at TheWe, TheWe, not 2 E's, just 1 E, WE.com. And if you do that, then I'd be more than happy to talk to you about how we might be able to get your show. If you're a real estate broker, if you're an insurance agent, if you're a person who makes purses or jewelry, how we can get you out there a little bit more and produce your show. So that having been said, let me just touch on a couple of news stories, at least from my perspective. We've got Rabia Tao Chapman Charm is also out there, and thank you for joining us. And we go to, you're invited not just to stay, but to join the broadcast anytime you feel like, and we'll see it. As long as you follow the rules, the 3 rules I always say. First, no crazy terrorism stuff. We're not doing that. And then secondly, no giving me the finger. If you give me the finger in the guest room, you're likely to do it on the broadcast. So none of that. And then lastly, no pornography. As I jokingly say, I may watch you for a little while in the green room, but I won't put you on the show. No, I'm just joking. I'm not encouraging that. I always joke too much about that. But so as long as it's not those 3 things, I'm happy to throw you on there and just see how we can chew the fat over this time period. We broadcast Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're going to be here. One of the news stories that we've been talking about is just the cold. When I got in my car today, it was about 25 degrees here in Baltimore, and quite frankly, that felt warm. I think if the sun was up, I don't even know if I'd put on my coat. I just had my warm weather sweater, and I probably would have gone with that. But in certain places, there's an article that I read this morning, and, as you all know, I check the news to see if there's anything worthwhile talking about. But in certain places, it's so cold that people, their eyelashes are actually freezing. Now, over in Siberia, for example, it is minus 67 degrees. That's cold. Now, we complain here about 25 degrees, and we certainly had single digits in the last few weeks, and that was cold. I wouldn't be going out just with a sweater on with the single digits. At least that's not what I would do. But minus 67 degrees, that's pretty cold. So people, their eyebrows and eyelashes are literally freezing off. Now, I can remember when I was in Chicago one winter, and it was so cold there. For you all who are listening to us in Chicago, it was so cold there that like literally it felt like my face was freezing. And I had never seen that or experienced that kind of cold before. But still, it wasn't cold enough to freeze my eyebrows and make them fall off, and eyelashes and so on. So, there are parts of the world where it is incredibly cold, and it is still very much a story. As a part of that is the record number of people who have the flu. In Missouri, for instance, they're really struggling with the flu. There's an epidemic. They have over 40,000 flu cases. 40,000. And probably out there, of someone who has the flu. And you don't want to get it, because I don't know anyone who is doing well with the flu, with the whole fever and nausea and the whole part of what comes with the flu. So as you've heard me joke about, we've had at least one guest come in here kind of coughing, and it caused me to do two things. Oh, I forgot this morning. One, to get the old handy sanitizer here. So when you come in, I don't care who you are, I'm going to give you a couple of squirts. And then when you leave, the thing that I forgot this morning is my wipes. So when you touch that doorknob, I'm saying, oh, thanks for coming, but I'm going to get those wipes to kind of wipe it down a little bit. Do what you can to protect yourself from the flu, or of course, go to the bathroom and wash my hands. So I'm not adversely affecting anybody. But that is what... what people are doing to protect themselves. But in Missouri, wow, 40,000 people have the flu. I see Alexis is out there. I'm going to give him a plug at the blackbusinessreview.net, his organization. And he's doing very well with that, blackbusinessreview.net. To make sure that you protect yourself. You see what I'm doing? Follow my lead. It's not offensive. Certainly, I wouldn't be offended if I go in someone's office and they kind of point me toward the hand sanitizer. I'm with you. So I don't want. You may have something, so I'll kind of use the hand sanitizer and just keep it moving without any kind of insult. So. I thought that was pretty interesting, that a state has over 40,000 people with the flu. The other thing, just shifting back to the investment side of things. And again, if you've got some thoughts, either send me a comment, which I'll see here, or to hear the two places where comments come up. Or if you want to join the broadcast, this is two-way talk. So we've made it, we encourage you to join our broadcast. And I'm sure there may be one or two folks who are waking up and who know we're here. And it's going to come in, and we can kind of chew the fat on your issue. But on the investment side, the Treasury bill, the 10-year Treasury bill, so the 10-year bond, if you put money in it, you're committed for 10 years, has gone up, has the highest interest rate since 2014. And what is that? The interest rate right now is 2.642, and that's up from 2.611. Well, you might say that's nothing to write home about. Many of us experience interest rates on our money or returns without locking it up 10 years much higher than that. In my day, I remember double-digit interest rates under President Carter, where the Treasury rate, the 10-year, had actually gone up into the double digits. So you're not really that impressed by a 2.64 yield, but this is a different time. And 2.64 for something that is absolutely guaranteed, like a Treasury bond, is something to think about. But 10 years is quite a long time to lock your money up. Usually, corporations do that, kind of locking in their pension liabilities and so on. Most individuals want something shorter. I would say 5 years and shorter. So the shorter the duration of the bond, the lower the yield. So you would not get a yield that high if you did a 5-year bond or something less. Now, why are yields going up? I kind of touched on that yesterday. With the stock market doing what it is doing, if those who want to borrow money have to offer a better yield, and that includes the government. If they're going to entice people to leave the stock market or not put their money in the market and actually tie it up in something like a bond. There are those who kind of trade off, okay, I'm not making as much money as I could make in the stock market, but what I'm making is guaranteed, and I don't have the risk of losing my principal. So that being said, if you're a Treasury bond or even a CD in a bank, you've got to raise the rate in order to attract people to put money in. So what you'll see are bank CDs are likely to go up as well. Not anything to knock your socks off as far as the rate goes. This rate just went from 6.11 to 6.42. And that is the highest since 2014, but still not something that's going to make you a millionaire unless you put a few million in it. And then you're already a millionaire, right? But it is a sign of the times that rates are going to go up. So those who borrow money for whatever reason, your credit card rate, other kinds of rates, all those things go up in sympathy to the Treasury bond rate going up. Because if you can make this rate with no risk, then if there's a risk, then they've got to pay you an even higher rate if there's any risk attached to putting your money in something. The other thing I saw that was out there that was kind of announced yesterday is that list of Amazon basically saying the top 20 cities where they may put their corporate headquarters. Now, that is fantastic. I mean, when you think, fantastic from the Amazon perspective, that you have evolved a business that is so great that people are competing, literally paying you to come to their city. And why is that? Because Amazon is bringing jobs. And jobs are such an important part of how a city grows and how a state grows. I was talking to Robert Jones, who may well come in. For those of you who saw Derek Burnett's culturally conscious narrative last night, Robert Jones had brought in a few comments. But one of the things he and I were discussing was that after the show, I wasn't a part of the show. We just kind of talked about it after the show, is the importance of job creation to a city. A mayor, our previous mayor in Baltimore, for example, said that in the next 10 years, or something to that effect, that she wanted to create 10,000 jobs in 10 years. A very modest goal, but 10,000 jobs in 10 years for a city for the size of Baltimore is kind of a modest goal. But how do you do that? You're not out here as an employer. You're not hiring You're not hiring people. What you have to do is to create the circumstances so that corporations and businesses either relocate to your city and bring jobs, or those that are there are in a better position through lower taxes, lower regulation, a better work environment to increase the number of jobs that they actually have at their companies. And so a company like Amazon, who is estimated to be able to bring in 50,000 jobs or more just overnight almost, is kind of treasured by any city in the United States, because there aren't many entities that that can come into your area that's kind of turnkey. And next thing you know, you got 50,000 jobs and all that goes along with it. 50,000 jobs and people buying things, and that whole leveraging effect of the jobs going through the community, where one store buys from another store, that helps that store create jobs, and so on and so on. What we used to call the multiplier effect. For those of you, I've got a background in economics, and the multiplier effect is what you see by one company like Amazon coming into an area. But you can make the argument too, well, is Amazon going to hurt some businesses? Well, not so much locally, because Amazon is such a global international presence. So they're not really hurting a local entity any more than if they were in another state, because they're going to do their business. And if you buy through them instead of a local, whether they're in your state or not, you're gonna buy from Amazon. So. But those jobs, you take what the mayor said here, the previous mayor, not this one, that 10,000 jobs in 10 years. Well, if you bring Amazon in 1 year, you've got 50,000 jobs, and all of the multiplier effect of people who create jobs because they're there. And so you really have the importance of why people compete so much and are willing to give away so much for Amazon to come. I saw one proposal that was written about where someone is literally giving away a city, that they're going to change the name of the city to something like Amazon Town or something like that to get them to locate there. That speaks to a lot of power. and why people would want to have Amazon in their location. But that being said, it's more than simply just who's going to pay them the most money. They want to be in a position where they can easily access the kind of talent they need to run in their company. They want to be able to know that their roads and infrastructure of wherever they locate are easy for products to get back and forth, which is the lifeblood of Amazon. They've got constantly products coming in and products coming out. So they need to make sure the road infrastructure can support what they're trying to do. So there are a lot of factors other than, who's going to write me the biggest check. Although who's going to write me the biggest check is a big factor. And so we're going to continue to study that, those top 20 cities. And I think that number was called down from over 200 cities that actually applied to Amazon to see if they would be willing to come to their particular location. And I'm sure that those cities, have a little bit of a feeling of rejection who did not make the list. Why didn't we make it? There's certainly some cities that were pretty large that didn't make Amazon's list. But those 20 that are left are still in the dance, and you know how it works. Now that you made the top 20 list, that was fine, but what else can you do? You made the top 20 list with what you put on the table. Obviously, you didn't win the whole thing. So now that you're here, you need to put up even more. So it's going to be interesting to me to see what that more is as people try to compete to get Amazon to come through the door. Something else that I saw out there that I thought was pretty interesting was a study that was done by National Geographic that said that we can actually smell people that are sick. Now, you said, Nate, you talk a lot about illness and stuff, and you talk about the flu and what you're doing to protect yourself against getting the flu, and now you're talking about you can smell someone who's actually sick. Now, do you believe that? Do you believe what National Geographic said, that you can actually smell someone who is sick? Now, certainly, someone who has a cold kind of has a little smell to them, really bad cold, and you can smell that. At least I think you can, and you can kind of duck them. But beyond that, can you smell someone who has another kind of illness? National Geographic has come out with a report that says to human beings, there's a part of self-protection that is there. We don't focus much on it, but it is certainly there if you choose to kind of open yourself up to being available to be able to smell, not just simply sense, but to smell when someone else is not doing well. These days, oh, by the way, we just got Christopher Chapman. He's out there joining us. Chris, welcome. These days, with I guess all the cologne and perfumes that people wear out there, I'm not sure you can get by that and actually smell somebody who's sick. So much of that cologne and stuff alone it makes me walk away. Some people, I remember that I was in the hospital once, and a nurse, she wasn't supposed to, but the nurses were wearing all this perfume, and it was just making me sick. I finally had to say something. Can you please take that off? Because it is kicking. And when you're in the hospital, it's the last thing you feel like smelling. But but that is actually what happened. I'm looking up here, is kind of looking for the comments. I've got one here from Mr. O'Bravo that says he read a while ago about dogs being trained, I guess, to smell people who are sick and to detect various types of sickness that a dog's heightened sense of smell might be able to sense. So, and that kind of makes sense. That I guess if you're sick, that you throw off different odors for different types of things. But what National Geographic was kind of saying is that you can smell someone who might have Parkinson's disease, or something like that. Where I kind of would wonder about that, but a dog can smell through several layers of earth and to find missing people, and can smell through luggage to find drugs in the airport. So maybe there's a way of training dogs, as Mr. Earl had suggested, and that they can actually sense and smell sickness. But that's an article out there that's been posted by National Geographic. The whole balancing the budget. I'm going to get into that. The House last night passed a balanced budget so that the government doesn't have to shut down, not a balanced budget, but a budget that would enable the government to keep on and not have to shut down. And now that's going to pass on to the Senate. That's great. I hope that they can get the politics out of that, but still, it's a real problem. The United States has a real problem. And the problem is this, that we are spending more money than we're bringing in from taxes. And how we deal with that gap is that we borrow money. So we have an outrageous, what they call national deficit. And the national deficit is that difference between the taxes we bring in and the expenses we have. We don't have, opposite of deficit is surplus. We don't have a surplus. We got a deficit, which is, we have to make up. We still have bills to pay. We still have expenses. And the way we've been making that up is that we borrow money. And, it's kind of like living off your credit card to a certain extent. And in the long term, that's just not the way to go. You need to first get a hold of all of your expenses and revenues. That's why there are certain people who feel like what we did with cutting the tax rate was so, difficult, so dangerous is the word I'm looking for, because already you're not bringing in enough tax dollars to cover our expenses. If you're going to reduce the amount of tax dollars that are coming in, it makes that deficit even higher. And then we've got this outrageous national debt, which is the debt outstanding for the most part to fund the expenses that we have that are not covered by our taxes. So, the other thought of that, the whole trickle down theory is that if you cut taxes, that the people who have money will take that money and do more, grow the economy, and you actually end up with more by bringing in less money. You actually end up with more money, more tax dollars by cutting tax dollars, which we'll see. Are we going to balloon up the debt even more with them? And it's not even a question. They've already said that it would. The cuts will add $1 trillion over a 10-year period to the national debt. How does that make sense? But it is what the Office of Budget Management Budget has said. Those of you who may disagree with me out there on that point, feel free to chime in. Again, this is two-way talk, where your opinion is very valued and what you have to say is very valued. So I'm hoping that I can inspire some of you guys and women out there to come on in. Just go to that page, the We. At the We, there's a link for today's show. You click on that link, download the app, and sign in through Facebook, and you're in. The same way that Dr. Wilson did today, that you can be in the show, and I'm hopeful that some of you will do that so that we can chew the fat back and forth about whatever the issue is you might want to talk about. We are kind of looking at issues that we want to bring up from really around the world. As you saw today, we're talking to someone from Africa. Actually, I've got a few of the people who are over in Africa doing business. I guess that's kind of my leaning, and professionals like Dr. Wilson on the show. And then yesterday we were talking at the business show that happens later today about doing business in South Korea and the people who are actually doing that and talking about how that gets done. But the point is that we're hopeful that we can bring people in from all over and talk about what's happening. We've got a comment here from Mr. Bravo, where he says, dogs can detect cancer, bed bugs, seizures, diabetes, and low blood sugar. Wow, that's interesting. It's that we can train dogs to do that. But it doesn't surprise me that, in fact, that there are some dogs that can be trained to sense things. If they can sense drugs, why not in airports, through luggage, why can't they sense some smell that we perhaps throw off through our skin? So that might indicate that we're sick in some way. So it doesn't surprise me that that's possible. I don't think they're going to replace physicians anytime soon, but I would. Wouldn't it be great? If that's the case, can you imagine walking into a physician's office and he's sitting there and he says, "Well, before you answer any questions, let's let Fido smell you, and he'll give me a little bit of what he says. We're going to do that dog smell analysis along with the blood tests and a couple of X-rays, and then we'll sit down here and chew the fat about or talk about what might be affecting you. I don't see any reason not to do that. I wouldn't mind. But then I like dogs. So maybe if you were afraid of dogs, it might be a little issue. But if you thought that dog might be able to smell cancer in its earliest stage, then you might be able to put aside your fear and let the dog sniff you a little bit. So, and that, quite frankly, that kind of sniffer a dog has, they're trying to see how they can create it inside of a robot. And so robotics starts to come into this, in various forms of ways in which people can deal with, treating your symptom remotely. Just imagine you say you're sick and the doctor says, well, hold up, we're going to send the dog out and let him smell you and just get an initial analysis. Most people now, there are these healthcare apps that people are creating that ask you a few questions on your phone. And then based on those few questions, they tell you whether to come in or stay home, or if you can take something that's over the counter. So people, there's money for that, and people like, I'm going to create an app for it. But maybe what we need to do is to invest in 100 dogs, 1,000 dogs, and send them around the hospitals and so on as a cheaper way to go, or an additional way to go, or just one more way to skin the cat. We're going to take your blood, give you a little blood test, a little chest X-ray, and here the dog's going to sniff you a little bit to see if he can sense anything that might be important. I mean, certainly if I had something life-threatening and I thought that a dog might be able to solve it or sense it, I'd be more than willing to, hey, sniff my hand or whatever you've got to do to see if you can determine if there's something that is wrong with me that needs to be treated. So, Mr. Earl, thank you for your comments. And it's going to be interesting, quite frankly, to see how things go, in the future, in healthcare. We've got some healthcare people that are coming on the show. In fact, we're going to be talking in March. We've got a big healthcare push that you're going to hear more about. We've got also some people that are going to be coming on board who are health professionals and in various ways who are going to be coming on the show and talking about what they do. And we always try to bring people on the show who certainly we're very comfortable with. We're not going to bring any bogus people on the show. So if you continue to follow us, and I certainly hope that you will, and not just follow us, but I want to be able to look over here and just like I could with Dr. Wilson, to see you join the show. Sometimes I know it's a little, you might say, well, gee, I want to make sure I'm just right before I come on board, that I have my hair just right and I'm all dressed. Well, don't worry about that. Just come on board, maybe put the camera so we can just see your face. We don't even have to see the rest of you. And we can just talk about whatever issues that you might have. And so that's kind of the basis of two-way talk, that it's not just me and maybe some guests I have just talking and you listen, but that we encourage you to interact with us and to be a part of the broadcast. Daisy, once again, I always like to remind you I have my cup. Sooner or later, though, I will have another cup that says "The We," and it's a bit more promotional if you'd like to get a hold of it. So I just haven't done it yet, but I fully intend to do it. In business, there's so many things that you deal with in a given day, and clients and so on. Certainly yesterday was a pretty busy day, kind of running. As I mentioned, I didn't get out of here till 8, but it was for the most part running. But Mr. Earl, I have to say that I took about a half hour and I had my power nap. I brought my pillow in yesterday, and I mentioned to Mr. Earl, who I know is a power nap person out there, that I am going to take the power nap. I couldn't get quite comfortable, and what I did was something that was pretty smart. I set the time on my cell phone that I wanted to get up again, and because at first it was kind of uncomfortable, I wasn't really falling asleep, but as time passed, I fell off, and then what woke me up was the cell phone. I would have slept past the time I wanted to get up. I guess that's a sign that I was tired. This is Friday. We've been kind of doing this for now 5 days. But the power nap afterwards, I was refreshed. I was really refreshed for the rest of the day. I really recommend it to anybody who's out there. The show that we had previously, where we had Journey Arrington, who is a yoga instructor, on, she talked about ways in which one can relieve stress. I'm going to check out her videos and kind of do my little meditation in here to help me get to sleep in this office environment. It's not much noise here. And you can kind of lock the door so no one can just come on in and just see you asleep if you're uncomfortable with that. And I don't really mind, but to just come on in and or rather to set things up so that you have the best possible way of making the most out of that power nap that we talk about. Is when I was younger, I used to think that was a sign of weakness. Oh man, he's so old, he can't even stay up. He's and I'm just steadily working away. When I had that picture of me up there, I was kind of in that mode. But I'm going to work my way through, and I can kind of, just like in athletics, I can kind of power my way through. But sometimes it's best, like in boxing, to pull back a little. And once you pull back and kind of gather yourself, you can hit something harder. And that is what, I think happens with the power naps. But I'm still looking for that brave person out there who's listening to our broadcast, maybe someone down in Florida, Texas, or someone up in New Hampshire. All my friends, as I said, I am going to have to take the time to reach out to some folks and to make sure that we get some of the folks to kind of inch them forward to becoming a part of Two-Way Talk. So you can look forward to that. Some of my friends hearing from me that Two-Way Talk is on, and I want to put Chapman or Mornings with Nate is on, and that we'd like you to participate. So those of you who are out there now, if you have a moment, feel free. We can kind of chew the fat over different issues. There's so much that's happening in different parts of the world. One of the things our guest said last night, who does business in South Korea, is that the news that they see over there is very different than what we see here. He and I were talking about whether or not he does business in South Korea and whether or not he felt safe given all of the threats back and forth between North Korea and the United States. And that's when he had his response that what we hear over there is very different than what you do over here. News-wise, and that they don't feel in any way afraid that something is going to happen, that everybody's just continuing to enjoy life and to move forward and to just do business. So I thought that was very interesting. I was thinking that maybe bomb shelters might be a big business over there, because everybody's afraid that I need to have something underground so I can at least have a chance of surviving. But no. Doesn't appear to be the case. In fact, what does appear to be the case, which you hear a little bit about, don't know how truthful it is, that there's a little bit of thawing between the United States and North Korea, that there may be something, some way that we can kind of scale back to tough talk and scale back some of these missile launches. It doesn't seem like they've done one, lately. I'm not trying to talk them up, that they do something. As far as I know, I haven't seen the news since I started to broadcast. Who knows what's happening out there? But I think that's a positive sign, kind of keep the world stable, keep the world at peace. So stability is what we always need as much as possible. And if there's change, that we do it kind of in an organized way. And because as long as commerce is flowing, products is flowing back and forth between countries, everybody can benefit from that. So I'm happy that my friend who does business in South Korea was talking about the fact that over there, they don't feel the same sense of alarm that some might feel here. And it's probably that way in other parts of the world as well. Other media sources kind of on the ground there, local, probably see things in a much different light than what we do here. Mm-hmm. But as I said, I'm still trying to encourage my friends that are out there watching to find that link. Now, where's the link that I'm talking about? Many of you, there are different ways in which folks out there are watching me. Some of you are watching me through the We, which is the umbrella that we all come under here. Some are watching you watching me from pages that I have an affiliation with, and in those pages, the broadcast goes out. Some of you are watching me through my guests and their broadcasts that go out. Well, however you're watching me, if you come over to the We, if you're not there already, our username is the We123. Then you can download the app and do what's necessary so that you can come on board. I'm going to put that out there so that you guys to know what to look for in Facebook. The We123, in Facebook. So it's so we can get some of you guys in here. Some of you brave souls who are willing to come on board and be seen. You see that? That's what's called a live graphic. So the We123 on Facebook, and if you go in with the whole thing with the THE as well, and you search for us, you'll find the page. And you'll see actually this broadcast is going on the page right now. And on that, what you want to do is just click that link. And then if you click that link, what will happen is you'll be asked to download our little app. And once you do that, then you can just sign in through Facebook, and your face will appear right here. And then once it appears right here, and I make sure that you're following the 3 rules that we always mention, once that's the case, then boom, you will be added to the broadcast, and then we'll be able to talk about whatever issue that you might have on your mind today, within reason. You're not trying to get in any trouble here. We just want to make sure that all of you out there know that that we're available to talk, and this whole two-way talk format is why we do the show. It's not simply just to talk about the news, although we have some news that we put out there that I've determined and that's worthwhile talking about. So much of the news that's out there, to be honest, is not worthwhile talking about. So much of it, I wonder why they even print it. It's kind of like saying that I took a shower this morning. Let me put it in the news. It's just not worth talking about, So, but there's a lot of that out there. So I kind of call through everything that I see in trying to determine whether something is worthwhile, and then I try to bring that on board. So you see that, the We123 on Facebook. And with that, then you can follow that process that I mentioned, and I'll see your face come up in the green room, and then I'll bring you out of the green room so we can shoot a fat. And or if you or just talk about things. I said shoot a fat, just talk about things. Or if you send us a comment, I'll certainly recognize it. The fact that you've taken the time to send a comment out to us is something that we really appreciate. And hopefully it's something that, based on something that you'd like to talk about or that you've gotten from us, and that you want to kind of expound upon. So this is two-way talk. Come on, let's go. Two-way talk. I'm going to, all my friends, if you don't want a phone call from me, let me get you on board. Let me get you into our broadcast, and let me make sure that you get a chance to have your voice heard and your opinions heard. So many of you, I look at your websites and your social media pages. I know some of you are doing some very exciting things that I'd like to hear a lot more about. Next week, we've got some more guests lined up, and those guests are a diversified group of guests, both professionals, business people, and others who I think have something to say that you might be interested in. And it is a pleasure of mine to be able to bring different points of view. So if you've got the conservative point, we'll put you on. And if you got the liberal point, we'll put you on. And just have people to react to you and to talk to you in a respectful way, whichever way that you have, and whichever perspective that you have. And that's what we're hoping. So there it is. The We123. Who is going to be that person out there among the thousands of people who I know were at least who got the announcement? I don't know how many of you have actually said, let me watch him. There's a few that come up, but I don't know actually how many. But we want to make sure that you know that we're going to be here from 6 to 9, and that you'll have this opportunity to hear from our guests and to also to participate in the broadcast. This is something that has been a labor of love of mine for some time because I basically I like people, and in liking people, I want to this social media aspect is something I want to broaden out to meet as many people and to bring as many people on as we possibly can, and then to talk about various things. I mentioned my book. That I have coming out, and that you can go to the Chapman Company Story, the Chapman, Chapman, if you've forgotten how to spell my name, company story.com, and put your name in there. And then when the book is ready, you'll get a little notice that the book is ready. How many authors do we have out there? How many folks do we have out there who have actually tried to write a book? I can tell you from my experience, it is not an easy thing. And certainly these days, it hasn't gotten any more easier. Because as you can imagine, when I leave here at 8 o'clock at night, I don't feel like, after I drive home, which probably takes me to 9, I don't feel like, let me bust out the book and knock out a few pages. Usually it's a weekend thing. After I've slept late, I'll bring the computer up and kind of knock out a few pages of the book or revise some things that I want to say in the book about the Chapman Company story and the Chapman Company journey, because there's so much to it. It's not really a book that's based on personal life much, just to the extent that it's related to the company. So I don't spend a lot of time talking about fatherhood or anything like that. Yesterday was my youngest daughter's birthday, and it's kind of hard to believe that she's evolved to the young lady that she has. And, who knows, maybe one day she might click in and be on the show. You never know, or is out there watching. But, it's kind of interesting when your baby girl, as I call her, is now in her 20s and headed toward 30. Wow, what's happening with me? I remember when she was an infant, and then the same thing with my god kids. My one godson. My one godson is up at West Point, and I've kind of seen just in what his postings and all that, the evolution, and the other goddaughter is over at Pitt. University of Pittsburgh, and wants to be a doctor. And if she set her mind to it, I'm sure that's exactly what's going to happen, because Pittsburgh's got a great medical school, great medical facility up there, and I'm sure she's going to do just that. But just to see them, one day you see them in little braids in their hair and so on, and the next day they're kind of grown. And you can kind of look back and think about, wow, you can't be thinking the thoughts I was thinking when I was your age. You're supposed to be a baby. But they're kind of grown people. One day she'll be a doctor making those important decisions. And already my godson is in the military. And because when you join West Point, you basically have joined the military. Even if you don't make it through, I think you end up still in the Army. But see, he's certainly going to make it through. That's not really an issue. But the whole military school, even though it's a free education, boy, it's a rigorous education. What they have you doing is very rigorous. I don't know if many of you out there are veterans or have been through the military academy. I talk about my experience in the military, which, I loved my experience for the most part in the military. There was, a few things that were kind of rough. But certainly, as I came to understand it, as I came to understand my time in the military, I just grew to love it. And the more, in retrospect, that I look at the military in my time there, the more I appreciate all the experiences, all the friends and things that I had. I can still remember even the marching songs, that I used to sing when I was in the military. You're going, it's I'll give you a little bit of it since we're still waiting for those souls before I jump back into the news, to come in. It's like, here's one. If you're out there and you're in the military, how about this one? If I die in Vietnam, and he repeated, if I die in Vietnam, send my body home to mom, send my body home to mom. In my casket, I will lie. In my casket, I will lie. You probably think I'm gone crazy out there. Grounded to the inspection side. grounded to the inspection side. And then the guy says, sound off. And you go 1, 2. And he goes again, sound off. And you go 3, 4. And he goes, bring it around. And you say, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're marching. Boy, I still remember it. And I was a teenager. That's how much is ingrained in you. That whole thing. I won't sing you any other songs in the military, but that one. Sometimes I found myself falling back into it too when I'm walking. I get a little pace going, and next thing you know, I'm going, if I die in Vietnam, and I'm walking, send my body home tomorrow. And it just is a part of it. It's just a part of your experience. So those of you who are veterans, I don't know if you still remember any songs or maybe what your experience is of being in the military. I'm very tempted to break out another song at this point. If you don't want me to, or if you want me to, send me a comment or to break out, because that wasn't a true breakout. I could kind of go into it, and sing in the true mojo of the military, to give you the few little essence of it. And I wonder if they're still singing those songs, or if they have new ones that they're singing these days. But back then, that whole thought, we're tough. If I die in Vietnam, nobody was trying to die in Vietnam. It was just a song, so. But you realize it was that possibility, that you might be sent someplace and have to deal with some situations that put you in harm's way, and that to protect others, protect the country. So, you knew it would happen, but it's not something you thought about every second of the day. At least I didn't when I was in the military. As I explained to you, for some of you who listen to us consistently, I enlisted when I was 17 and a half. Which was the youngest that you could do it. Once I made the commitment that I was going to go that way, I 17 and a half, and that was it. I didn't even wait till I was 18. 17 and a half. I think my parents may have had to sign or something. At 18, I could have gone in on my own, but they signed so I could go into the military. So it was a great experience. But kind of like Officer and a Gentleman with the guy, Lou Gossett, training instructor, and he's got the brim kind of bent forward, and he's yelling and march. And if you kind of have a little smile on your face, the guy look at you. He said, "Do I look like a joke to you? Am I funny?" He's all in your face. And if I'm funny, get down and give me 20. And you get out and try to do 20 push-ups, and there'd be some guy. He's training to do the push-ups, and you might have a smile on your face. What? You look like something funny going on here. Give me 20, and you'd have to go down and get 20. So it was very interesting. Back in those days, I was in pretty good shape physically. I was an athlete, as many of you know. So if I had to get down and get 20, it was no big deal. I'd do 100. So it's no big deal to get down and give you 20. At one point, I built up where I do 1,000, not all at one time in increments, but get down and give me 20 wasn't such a big deal. I guess it was better than there used to be a time in the military where they could hit you. You say something, they slap you. So they'll slap you. My Aunt Katie would say, you slap the taste out your mouth. But but that time it passed. By the time I got in the military, it was kind of the worst thing you would get is kind of some type of undesirable duty, cleaning toilets or something like that, or having to get up in the middle of the night and do some kind of guard duty. But they really weren't putting their hands on you per se, but they still could motivate you just with that yelling and running, run here, stop kind of stuff. But that was just basic training. Once I got out into military life, it was a lot more calm. But I still remember it till this day. And I'd recommend anybody going through the military experience, not going over and in a war and having to go through all that, but just a military experience, the camaraderie you build with different people. Even just recently, there was someone on Facebook who I thought I knew from the military, and I kind of reached out to them, and others who I did know, friends that I have checked with But remember, this is two-way talk. This isn't just about me chewing the fat or talking all morning. I want to get you on board. I want to, get you guys involved, and ladies involved. I always say guys in a generic sense, meaning both men and women. But who do we have? We've got SPS Smith is watching. He's quite a person who posts out there, and has a number of different opinions that I find very interesting. He's someone. If you're out there, feel free to click on that link. On the We. That's why I have it up there. The We 123 on Facebook. You actually put that in the search bar. We're called the We, but the We was taken as a username, so came up with the We 123. That's something easy to remember. And then you just put that in the search bar, and our page comes up. And at the top of the post, you'll see a link that mentions today's show. And if you click on that link, you'll download an app and sign in through Facebook, and your face will come up right over there. And we will have an opportunity to chew the fat and talk about issues that you might be interested in. So that's what I'm hoping to do. But otherwise, we'll talk about the news and some things that I think you might be interested in. I was just talking a little bit about my military experience. One other thing, we had Dr. Barney Wilson on earlier, and he and I were both graduates of Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. For those of you who are outside of the state of Maryland, that may not mean much, but it is one of the top schools. And it was kind of something. For me, my path to Poly, and everybody has kind of a different path. Some people have a generational path. They have other people who have gone there and they knew that's where they wanted to go and stuff like that. And I didn't have all that when I was coming up in Emerson Village. In fact, I had never even met anyone who had gone to Poly. So all I heard was that it was the best school, and academically I was pretty good back, and so I wanted to test myself against the best. And what I heard was that that's where they were. Now there's another school here locally that people say is also pretty good, and I certainly had my choice between the two, but I chose Poly. Poly seemed like the place where that I would enjoy the most, and I took 2 city buses to get there. None of the yellow bus stuff where you get on the yellow bus and they ride. 2 city buses when I was a teenager to get to Poly, when I could have walked to a school that was in a neighborhood. But they said that's where the best was. People like Dr. Wilson and some of the other names that were mentioned. So that's where I went. And in retrospect, sometimes I look back and I say, well, why? I'm glad I did it. It was a great decision. But since I had never even met anyone who had gone there, and I was just simply going there on reputation, I think about that. I thank God that I made that decision. My parents supported me, and there I went. And now proud to be a graduate. And so many folks have come out of school and done great things. So people who you go back with high school, and since I played a lot of sports, and in high school. I played basketball, which is the only sport I intended to play in high school. But I also wrestled and I played lacrosse. And some of you have heard me talk about lacrosse as a sport that I grew to love. Wrestling was good too. But I guess as a boy, I wrestled all the time. We would wrestle, kids wrestle. It's kind of a fun thing to do. And so I would do that all the time. And so, but wrestling, really, when you've been trained to do it with different moves and so on, a totally different thing than just kind of going at it the way you might do when you're just wrestling in the grass, another guy. So it was all right. Wrestling I enjoyed. I certainly did it for 3 years. But lacrosse, I grew to love that stick and that ball and the speed of the game and running and all that. Unfortunately, it's a cold weather sport. So you're out there many days, like the days we're having now in Maryland in the really cold days. You're out there and it doesn't stop. Just like football, it doesn't stop if it's bad weather. So if it's pouring down, raining or something like that, the game goes on. So that was something that made it a little rougher when you played that sport. But this is a two-way talk show. And I'm hoping that I can inspire some of you who have some issues that you would like to discuss to come on into it and go to that page, the We 123, and click on that link, download that app, and come on and we can chew the fat. Or if you'd rather send me a text that we can respond to, go ahead and text me. I've found that, if I have my phone here, and the texts actually come up faster on the phone because over here, they've got two different systems streaming live to two different places. And that's how we do it here. Ultimately, we'll be streaming to different platforms. So if you look at us here on Facebook, you'll see us. If you look at us on YouTube, you'll see us. If you look at us on Instagram, you'll see us streaming away, doing our thing. But for today, we're streaming into multiple Facebook pages, and I hope that we can get you to come on board with us and be a part of this two-way talk. So if I say something that you'd like to respond to, or if you've got an entirely different subject, that's something that I'm more than happy to go through with you, as long as it's the three rules that we talked about. I like to get my authors out there too. One of the things that when I see my friends friending me, I see is a lot of people who have written books. I got Derek Burnett watching. And as you know, Derek's the host of the show that I mentioned, the Culturally Conscious Narrative, which aired last night. He did very well. A number of people watched, a number of people participated in giving comments and so on. So, and that's a show that we produce. And so I always like to give you that quick segue, let us produce for you. That if you want to go beyond just throwing up the Facebook Live on your cell phone, if you want to do something like the little graphic that we have here, or other split screen technology, or other things, as I said, broadcast on multiple platforms, we'll get you out there. We'll take our knowledge, my technical knowledge, and the knowledge of people who are helpful and a part of the team, some of my social media road dogs, and we'll get you out there. Because it's important. This is such a fantastic social media, and Facebook and what they've done and some of these other platforms to be able to create an opportunity where you can get out there, where your voice can be heard and your point of view can be shared, and it can be kind of debated. You can get to know other people. I just think it's such an important thing to do. And those of you who are in the real estate business or any business, there's nothing you can do to reach as many people as fast as social media. And there's some days that we do a broadcast, we may have several thousand people who have looked at the broadcast, and there's just no way to reach that many people. Of the people who are out there, some subset of them might be interested enough to contact you. And that's why I want to give my email. If you're out there and you say, well, look, I'd like to do something like what you're doing. Can you get me out there? Yeah, we can. All you need is your cell phone. Once you link in, if you saw how Dr. Wilson was able to link in, others have been able to link in, we take it from there. So just imagine if he was hosting the show. I kind of take myself off the screen and just let him go. Or you can just put yourself in that position that if you want to host your own show, we want to get you out there, because we're going 24/7. 24/7 is our goal. And we're going to wear Facebook Live out. And the other media platforms, we're going to wear them out. So right now, this broadcast, we're going to be putting some of the broadcasts that we have up on our website, and so you can see what our programming is. So if you're interested, you'll know when to expect a show to come on and what day it's going to come on. So we'll put a programming calendar up on our website. Certainly as we build more content where you become a part of what we're doing, that will be very important, because there's so many different things that are happening. Some that are happening simultaneously. We may broadcast one show through a set of Facebook pages and another show to a different set of Facebook pages. For example, same thing with Instagram, same technical theory. And they just be, different shows simultaneously. So during the same hour, there may be more than one thing that's being broadcast that you might be interested in. So so that's why we're very interested in helping you all who are out there who are trying to figure out this Facebook Live thing and the technology. Because I can tell you, if you want to take it to the next level, there's a lot of tech and a lot of expense to do it. The software that runs these things on computers has to be on what's an extremely fast CPU. I mean, that computer to my left here has the Intel 8th generation chip and one of the fastest CPUs, and also the video card. If you're going to do stuff that involves video, involves graphics, you need a really fast video card. And some of you might not even know what that means or how to deal with that. So that's the type of thing that we can help you with. And if you're interested, here's my email address, Nate, N-A-T-E, at TheWe, .world, not .com, .world. See the map behind us? That's what we're headed for, .world. So we'd invite you to send us that text, send us that email rather. And I will be able to get back to you, indicate while you're emailing me in the subject that you're interested in having your own show, or you're interested in getting your voice out there, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Because because we do what we do and that we produce for other people, I constantly look at others who are doing the same thing, who have valuable content, who have a valuable voice, but it's kind of lost in the fact that oh, well, God, he said, I got my cousin, Vanessa, she's saying godson. What about Brian? Well, Brian is like all of the above. Godson, cousin, everything. He's one of my cousins out in San Diego, which I guess he'll be coming back this way soon. But that's the thing. Wow, I just love this social media. Brian, if you're out there watching, come on in. If that's a go, tell him we're out there and have him to come on in. He's a photographer, and he himself is active in the media out there in San Diego. So not anyone that, if you don't know our family, Brian Jeffries is his name. For those of you who do know him, who's out there in San Diego, you can tell him we raised his name today. But at the end of the day, and I am so happy that Vanessa sent that message, because, sometimes if you're watching, you'll come up and I'll see that you're watching, and that's great. But obviously she was watching and the message did not come up. So, I am very happy wherever you might be to kind of come on board, chew the fat, talk about issues. We've got some people who have shows who talk about things that may be a little controversial. And if you watch Donnie Glover on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock, Donnie hits them hard. Yeah, he's got a number of point of views of things that are happening, and he hits them hard. He hits everybody hard, local, Trump, anybody you want to hit hard. We talk a little bit about Trump. I mean, there's some things that we see in the news. We don't really, the way I do it, I really can't say I talk about him. I just talk the story. I just speak the story of whatever it is, which he's great for the media, because normally he's always doing something to be talked about. But at a time where there may not be other stories out there that seem like they're interesting enough or appeal to enough people to make it worthwhile even mentioning on the news. I kind of, as you all know, I go through all the papers the same way I used to. I don't have to spread them out the way I used to and just kind of flip through them. These days, you can kind of scroll various news services and see if there's anything out there that you think might be worthwhile. That's what I do. But I do appreciate and remember the days when I used to do live news, that in order to make sure I wasn't surprised by anything, since I do take live questions, I would go out there and basically look through the newspapers and see if there was anything out there that I should know about or I should mention during the show, because you all might throw something at me that I'm not familiar with 100% at all. So to keep that from happening and to stay up to date, you say, Nate, you don't sleep very much anyway, so couldn't have been much happened since you went to bed and woke up. But whatever it is, I want to make sure that I know about it so we can respond to it, and I can respond to you intelligently. This is my peppermint tea. and it is hitting the spot. If I have to maybe think about investing in a little, hot pot here so that I can get a little extra, doing the broadcast because I go through my cup and then it's gone because it's so tasty. My friend Derek gave me last night during the show a bunch of candy canes, and I threw a little candy cane in there to sweeten it up and keep it rolling. So, just kind of thought about that as I was tasting it. But I am still looking. I'm looking over in the green room to see if anyone's there, and I'm checking for comments to see if there are any comments that we can talk about and that I can bring up. One of the things that I'm hopeful of doing, if you read my book, is just talking about various stories that have been a part of my life that I hope might be inspirational to you. Because, we, growing up in Emerson Village, which some would say is one of the rougher areas of Baltimore, and then going from there to becoming the investment banker that, I've become, and also, the head of public companies, the head of the university system, how that path happened. And if you know that path, then you can kind of think about it a little bit for yourself if that's something that you're interested in. And that's what I'm hoping that someone might be able to get. That's kind of the reason I wanted to write the book. I certainly didn't write it for money. I wrote the book because I wanted to pass on something. I want to pass on some knowledge about what I've gone through, some legacy of experience. And you can use it as a basis of what you might want to do and how you might see things a little differently. So that's really what I'm hoping to do by the book. Oh, Phil, I see you. I saw you actually earlier in the MIT groups sending out stuff, and glad to see you. Now, you, especially since I know you're over in London right now, I'm hoping that you go to our page. And you might be there right now. The We 123, and Phil is also a great entrepreneur. And click on that link and download the app and stuff, and come on in because would love to talk to you and kind of get an update and update everyone out there about what's happening with you in London right now. So that would be fantastic. So I see you're out there, see you're watching. And hopefully you'll be able to do that if you're not running to make big money somewhere. At the MIT, one of the things that the expression that kind of stuck with me is hit it hard. And what does that mean? And you might put this in perspective. So you go to a guy and you say, well, I've got a business. And he said, okay, I've got a business. How much is your business going to gross? Give me a 1, 3, 5 year period. He said, well, I think in the first year we'll do about $500,000. The third year, maybe we'll do about $3 million. And then by the fifth year, I think we're going to be out there maybe $5 million. For a lot of places, that's not bad. But at MIT, that's not hitting it hard. You need, if you talk to the great entrepreneurship teacher, Bill Aulet, and you tell him that 5 years from now, you think you're going to be doing $5 million in revenue, he'll suggest that perhaps you consider another business because that's not hitting it hard. In 5 years, you ought to be doing 50, 60, $100 million of revenue. That's how they look at it. That's when you're hitting it hard. And that puts things into perspective. So you go back and you kind of scratch your pencil a little bit and say, how is it possible? What do I have to do? What set of scenarios do I have to go through so I can get 5 years from now a business that's grossing at least $50 million at MIT? That's kind of the hitting it hard thing, which is why I'm sure that the graduates have been so successful because it kind of you raise your view of what you want to do. And so you'll find a way to figure it out. And even if you don't do 50, you might end up doing 35, which is still a long way from 5 that you originally thought that you might do. So I've always liked that expression, hit it hard. So yesterday, when I was talking to the gentleman that from South Korea, who does business in South Korea, and he was saying that he has a rap group. And I think their company name included something about hitting it hard. That kind of appealed to me on a personal level. Because around here, I like to think I'm hitting it hard. And I can't tell you my story. Up to 3 a.m, you're out the door by 4. But it's not just because I work hard doesn't mean I'm hitting it hard. You got a little bit more. It's got to be successful. It's got to be able to monetize and get your customers on board. So I'm real happy that that's taking place for us as well. That I have in the back of my mind how I want to hit it hard, and I have my own goals as to what I want to do with the various social media platforms and things that we do to kind of hit it hard for and at least in how I see it. But I also want to help you hit it hard. I want to show you how one can monetize in social media, the kind of things that are available to you out there as you look to expand your audience and you become a social influencer, and how it's more than just simply getting some advertisement from Google AdWords. I mean, nobody's going to get rich doing that. So you need to do a few other things, start thinking about how you're going to create some products and revenue streams and stuff like that. So, that's what, at least the MIT part, what they talk about when they say hit it hard. In fact, there's a YouTube video out there that I can never find that really speaks to the whole hitting hard type thing that we have there at MIT. And I changed my personal profile photos and all. I used to have that little cartoon in there with a couple dogs, and then it says "Hungry Dogs Hunt Best," which is I mentioned an MIT thing, and the whole cartoon was actually created by this guy Marius from MIT for me. He had actually created it. He just let me use it, and so that's where that came from. And that's kind of another expression that "Hungry Dogs Hunt Best." Bill Aulet, the guy who I mentioned, who is the entrepreneurial teacher, the epitome of entrepreneurship teachers, in history. I don't want to give him faint praise, so it's hard really to even describe him. But just to say, a fantastic teacher in entrepreneurship. He's got a book. Which if I had thought about that I was going to talk about him, I would have brought over because it's right over there, called Discipline Entrepreneurship. But we will be talking about some of the techniques of discipline entrepreneurship, and I've touched on that. So, but this is a two-way talk program, not just a Nate Chapman talk, not just a Nate talk. True, it's Mornings with Nate, but it's Mornings with Nate two-way talk. So I am looking for a couple of those brave souls out there to either click on the link that is on the posting, and to download that app, come onto the show, shoot a fat, or just talk to Nate. I keep saying shoot a fat. That's an old term. So I'm just going to say talk, and we come and discuss what's happening in your life. We'll discuss what's happening in the news, and kind of get your opinion on things. So I'm looking for those brave souls who are willing to step up, because you will be getting a phone call from me. And I've got to broadcast it that how you can reach us, the We123 on Facebook. Just search that. So if you're on one of those other pages that, and I mention that because those other pages do not have the link. They'll take you over to where the link is, and that's at the top of the post. I'll pin it to the top, and then you can click on that link, and then before you know it, here we are. We're talking to each other. Now, I've mentioned several times that I'm writing a book, and that this is kind of the potential cover of the book, the pre-designed cover. Not so sure we're going to stay with money, power, and respect. There's some other things. People talk about how I built an empire, how one does that. How you build, next thing you know, your top floor of the World Trade Center, which, is how we were rolling. And that's the preliminary cover. But if you're interested in it, and you want to, when it's finally completed, that if you want a copy of it, go over to this web address, which is the Chapman, CHAPMAN, as you can see from the book cover, company.com. and you will see that book there, and not the book there, but you'll see where you can kind of click and put your email address in. And then once that's there, when the book is ready, I'll make sure that you're notified so that if you're interested in reading the story, it's a very interesting story. There's a lot of things that I've experienced, a lot of famous people that I have met, and so a lot of huge corporations that I've done business with, and kind of the path to those corporations. And then I had the opportunity to do a number of different things, and some of the people who I took a look at, and I just saw them as the potential they could have within the investment banking business, and hired them on board. And they were very helpful to our company in building our company and getting through, companies. We did business with some of the biggest on the street, Chrysler, Amoco, or was it Amoco, Exxon? So I forget. People who we managed money for, people who had strategic partnership agreements with, that was selling our products. The nature of our agreement was they sold us because we had such good performance numbers and unique products. So that is. Yeah, but how do you do that? How do you set up those relationships? How do you meet those people? I created a mutual fund one time, and I tell a story in the book that I knew what it was going to take to create this mutual fund. I'm one of the few people who have created a mutual fund from scratch, first African American. But but I had this concept, and I'll never forget it. And then you'll see the story in the book that I just really wanted to manage the money. I didn't want to have to go through all of what you have to go through to actually start a mutual fund. And so I approached Merrill Lynch about it, and I approached him with a concept. And I went to Princeton, New Jersey, where the guy was located at the time. They may well still be there. Their headquarters for the mutual fund operations, which they are huge. So we met, and I told him about the concept. He said, "Nate, a great concept. Look at all these mutual funds that we market. Merrill Lynch markets everybody. They've got strategic partnership arrangements with certain people where they focus, and these people are constantly bringing out new funds. My idea was unique, but he said, why don't you just do it?" And I said, well, thank you very much. I got a sense that he wasn't really just blowing me off, that he thought it was a great idea. And so we went through what we had to do in order to do it. Because it's an expensive process. And then, once you have a mutual fund, you got to have something in it, and to make it profitable so you're not losing money, you got to have millions. So you got to, in the millions, generate fees for you to pay the fund's expenses. So it's not an easy thing. So we went through it and raised the money. And after I developed about a 3-year track record, I called the guy and said, I'd like to talk to him. He said, come on down. This time around, our conversation was very different. And I showed him the mutual fund prospectus and the selling group agreement. The selling group agreement was what he had to sign in order for Merrill Lynch brokers throughout the world to be able to sell our product. And we talked about sports. He pretty much just signed the agreement, and I think we were talking about sports the whole time. That I didn't give up. I wasn't offended that he just didn't take my idea and put all his resources behind making it happen. I did what I had to do. I did what he suggested, which is I did it myself. So if indeed he hadn't signed the agreement, life would go on because I did it, and we would continue to raise money the way we always have. But if every once in a while, multiple streams of income, if I look at who's selling our stuff, Merrill Lynch and different firms, well, how much are they bringing in, and kind of reinforce that effort with a little marketing, going to their branches and stuff and trying to get the people there to think more about what we're doing, then those numbers will go up without me physically have to bring in any more clients. They're kind of in charge of doing that at Merrill Lynch. And so I tell stories about that and other things that we did back in those days that I'm pretty proud of. And I'd like to see more of. That's really the thing. I'd like to see more of it. I see more guys who are out here stretching out, forming these partnerships and open to, and what it takes to do it. It's certainly not where you express kind of some general interest in, hey, I'd like to work with you, and expect them to figure out how they're going to work with you. You need to come with the idea. This is what I have. And this is how I see that we can work together. And with that, we have a basis of discussion. And then the most important question, this is what's in it for you, because that's what most of the guys are looking for. You got to answer that question. If I do this, what is in it for me? And, so you need to do that. And what is in it? And when you're dealing in the investment banking world, they don't want some type of, this will be nice for the community and this is going to raise your exposure, or, you'll be able to extend your brand or something like that. And that's all well and good, but that's got to be way down the bottom of what is in it for me? What is in it for me? Bottom line, show me how I'm going to make money from it. Show me how I'm not going to lose any money from it, and show me how it's not going to take up too much of my time. Because there's only so much time in the day, and I got to focus on what's going to yield back and reap the biggest rewards. And if I'm going to do something new, then you can't take up too much of my time. So all those are the kind of things that you have to think about and show as you are developing these strategic partnerships with people, and as you go out. But if you don't have anybody to kind of mentor you, how do you know? You may think, well, boy, a big corporation like Merrill Lynch, what they're interested in is their community involvement. Nah, not. I'm telling you the truth. No. What we're interested in is extending our brand. Nah. Back in the old days, and again, I'm still looking for that person to join us on the link and test it out. If it's not working, if the link is, there's some issue with the link, just let me know, put a little comment here on Facebook and I'll try to make a few moves if I can. But I remember I used to work for Alex Brown and Sons, as some of you have heard me say. Alex Brown's the oldest name in investment banking, third oldest in the world. And that's what we would say. Hi, I'm from Nate Chat. The operator would say that. Hi, this is Nate Chat, or this is Alex Brown, oldest name in investment banking in America. So that's how they would answer. That was the way we used to say what was happening. And when I joined the firm, it was still a partnership. It hadn't even incorporated yet, let alone gone public and been acquired. What has happened to it since? It was just a partnership. And I was talking to the managing partner, a guy by the name of F. Barton Harvey, who's a great guy. He's passed on, but he's a great guy. And I was in his office. It was one-on-one. He interviews the new people. The managing partner likes to meet the new people. You get to, spend a little time with the great man. And he said, well, is there anything you'd like to ask me? And, being the kind of person I am, I asked him, I said, well, sir, what do I have to do here to make partner? I'm as fresh. Our partnership was like almost like a 12-year run, to make partner. But if you're a partner, I don't know any partners are millionaires. So, I'm thinking, all right, I see what the lay of the land is. What do I have to do here to make partner? And he looked at me, and I'll never forget it. And he said, Nate, we look a lot at the numbers. And I'm thinking, okay, I understand that, but do you care about my being active in firm affairs and my being active in the community, my coming up with ideas? And he looked at me and he said again, Nate, we look a lot at the numbers. Got it. Sometimes people can say things to you and you just don't appreciate it. It just goes over your head. Or you just want to hear what you want to hear. Maybe I just want to hear him say, we wanted you to be active in the community and we want you to be our ambassador out there. Forget that stuff. I mean, it's not harsh. But Nate, we look at the numbers. So if I want to be a partner around here, if I want to have some of what I see, I got to pay attention to the numbers and what the numbers are. And fortunately, the revenues that people produce were kind of posted, so you knew who the top guy was. In fact, they don't really post them beyond the top 10. So if you're not in the top 10, then you don't really know, you're not really counted. That's how it used to be. And so, okay, I got to break into that top 10 list. And the way I am, I got to hit that number one spot. That's where I got to go. And so that's what you're paying attention to. And so I don't have to do anything else. And I kind of, for those of you who kind of follow what I'm doing right now, in the way I've approached it, where, I tell you I'm here, so early in the morning, I leave so late at night. Well, that's the way it was then too. Same possible, I'd get there before anybody else and I'd leave after everybody was gone. But during that time, I was grinding. I was calling people. I was making appointments. I was grinding. I didn't pay attention. I don't care what the gossip is. I don't care who's going out for lunch. I don't care. I'm grinding. And it took years. But one day, bing, on that top 10 list, I see my name. Yes. And, and then, but at the time, that's when it kind of hit me, along with a few other experiences that, I can do this for myself. I can set up my own investment banking firm, and I grinded so hard. So many of these clients, I know they're clients of the company, but they're really clients of mine because I'm the one who went and got them. And so when I approached the firm, they said, well, Nate, he said something I was very pleased to hear. Nate, there's no doubt that you're one day going to be a partner in the firm. That they actually, the partner actually said that. And at the time, it was quite an honor to know that they felt that way. Because so many people, the investment banking business is a tough business. So many people wash out. They can't make it. Some don't even make it by the exams. So it's tough business. It's not for everybody. It's a commission-based business. You eat what you kill business. But I'm very comfortable with that. I don't like when someone else got to determine how I eat. That is not what works best for me. Where you get, how it is in a lot of jobs. You do the best you can, and somebody kind of rates you at the end of the year and determines what the level of your bonus or your salary increase is going to be. And that's well and good, but I don't work best under those kind of environments, and I can't get to where I want to be that way. I got to go out and get it, and then I get my, I got it. I got to go get it. Yeah. And so that's how I've always approached it. And so when I saw my name at the top of the list, not, I wasn't number one, but I cracked the top 10. That was a very important moment and also when he said that, because I really at that moment had made up my mind. Yeah, this is probably time for me to go start my own company. So, those type of stories, I tell in the book and quite frankly, so many people thought I had lost my mind. Here it is, let's just say it. I'm the only African American they have. I'm in the top 10 of the producers in the country. Everybody's happy. I'm happy. Why do you want to leave? Why do you want to go and start your own company? But it was a part of who I was and my entrepreneurial dream. And so people thought I was crazy when I left Pete Marwick to go to Alex Brown. Here it is, you're a CPA, and all it took to, become a CPA and the whole bit, and the study and something. And you're not gonna not be an accountant. So I always wanted to be an investment banker. Pete Marwick, the largest public accounting firm in the world, and you're working here. And quite frankly, in retrospect, I realized, the opportunity I was given, back in those days. I tell the story of how I ended up at Pete Marwick, that the fact that I had an accounting professor who took an interest in me. And he was the one that really led me to Pete Marwick. He used to work for them, and he knew the people there, and he thought that I would do well there. And he said that, I'll never forget it. You'll see the story in the book that, one day during class, he said he'd like to talk to me after class. And I'm thinking, what in the world have I done? That he needs to talk to me about after class. I just show up, I sit here, I ask my questions, I move on, I keep it moving. What has happened so that he needs to talk to me? So all during the class, I'm wondering, what I'm going through my mind, I haven't offended anybody, what has happened? And then after class, he said, Nate, I'd like to take you out to dinner to discuss something. Now I'm worried. Why can't you just tell me now? Whatever it is. But he's my accounting professor. I'm not trying to offend him. And so I meet with him. And all the while I'm wondering, what is this all about? And then he says, Nate, I'd like to set you up with an interview with Pete Marwick if you're interested. Now, to be honest, at that time, I wanted an accounting knowledge, but I thought I was headed to law school. I was president of student government in college. And that gives you like this big leadership number. The colleges and all, they rate you. And one of the things they rate you on is leadership. And then when you're president of student government, you always get 100% of that. So if you're lacking some other categories, it kind of offsets it. Most guys get in. And so I was thinking that was the direction I was going to go. Now, mind you, I was in class with a lot of people who were hoping and praying that one day that they might be able to get to a global accounting firm. But that really wasn't my thought. But he said it. I'm not trying to offend him and get a bad grade or anything like that. I hadn't really thought much about it. And because I thought I was headed to law school. And so I said, sure, happy to. Now, I was very poor at that time. I didn't really own a suit. That's how it was. I was just that poor. I didn't own a suit. But it wasn't a matter. I didn't need one. Wore jeans all the time. I had a little white shirt, tie. And so what happened was that, I was out one day. Oh, hold on. Who's out there? I see some comments. I'm talking away. Oh, I see. Oh, here. We certainly had to put this one up. This one generated a lot of activity yesterday when I said it. We'll see what happens. Daisy. So Daisy pumps you up. Daisy is a person that gives you energy. There you go. She said, Nate, you're the best. Well, Daisy, I would say, that's not true. But then that would make me a liar. No, I'm just messing. Come on. And then I've got Vanessa. Vanessa, I know I owe you a phone call over Bitcoin. We got to talk about it. And so a couple comments from her out there. So very pleased that some people have, kind of commented. That's funny. Nate, when I put out that Nate is the best thing, it kind of generated some comments yesterday. I got to try that again, see what happens. So anyway, I told my instructor that, sure, I'd like that job at Peat Marwick, or that interview at Peat Marwick. And I completely forgot about it, to be honest. And I knew I hadn't offended him. I thought, yes, sir, thank you, so on. And they called my house. Now, my mother, who people know, was a kind of forceful woman. She loved my mom. She passed many years ago. But she got the phone call from Peat Marwick. And the guy called and said, we want to interview for your son for a job. And her attitude was just, hey, just tell me when you want him there. He will be there. I guarantee it. So I get home and my mother said, you got a phone call from this place and you're supposed to be there on like Tuesday at 2. I'm looking at what place are you talking about? My mom kind of half wrote Pete, and Pete is normally spelled P-E-A-T. That's how they spell it. Like P-E-T, and so on. And I'm thinking, what? That big call came in. My mom handled it. Okay. All right. Now I'm thinking, what in the world do I wear to that interview? Because I didn't have a suit. You go to church, you just have to have a shirt, a little sport coat or something. No biggie, but I want to go down there. So I decided, heck, what am I worried about? I'm going to law school. So what am I worried? I'm just going to do this to satisfy my professor. And so he'll not be mad at me and, maybe give me a bad grade or something, make life a little tougher. I'm headed to law school. So I decided I was going to put on a white shirt, tie I had, and this trench coat I had, and I wore that down there. Because what am I worried about? I'm headed to law school. So the first partner met me. We were talking about what it was like to go to school and the fact that my accounting professor had recommended me. The fact that I was president of student government and what that meant, how I became president of student government, running for it and all. And that was fine. Then the next partner met me and we were talking about accounting courses and business and stuff like that. And it seemed to go fine. I was kind of relaxed. I'm going to law school. And then the third partner met me and we actually talked about sports, and I didn't know they had a team. They had a basketball team. And I said, I can. I'm a pretty good basketball player, and I grew up playing basketball. I've been playing since I was in elementary school, so it's like the game in Baltimore. And so he said, well, Nate, at the end of it, I met the managing partner, a guy by the name of Archibald Fort, who passed recently, F. Archibald Fort. Birds, yeah. I think, fantastic guy, North Carolina guy. He fantastic, extremely brilliant accountant. But I wasn't that worried about it. Heck, I've now done my duty, right? I'm going to law school. So then a few days later, no, actually it was a couple of weeks later, come to think of it. I kind of forgotten about it. The letter came in the mail from Pete Marwick, and I opened it up, and it was an offer letter. And I looked at the salary, and it was twice what my father was making. So you know what? I'm going to be a public accountant. I'm going to be an accountant. I'm going to be a CPA. Yes. Yeah. Look at that money right there. I am going. And that's kind of how it happened. I had to make some investments in a few suits, so I had something to wear, my parents and all. But that's kind of how it happened, and it was great. It was great. It was one of the best decisions, one of the best things that ever happened to me. I really enjoyed working at Pete Marwick. I learned a tremendous amount. It was like going to graduate school in accounting, and some brilliant accountants, and working on some extremely large companies and small companies as well. So it was a fantastic thing. And I thank my accounting instructor, and I mentioned him in my book. Who are taking that interest in me, because if it wasn't for that, and all of what happened since Pete Marwick, so it was one of those things where that his taking that interest and stepping into my life kind of changed the direction of where I ended up. I think about him all the time. I know he's alive because every once in a while I'll, Facebook him out there, or or Google him and see that he's actually still practicing. Because I say, oh, gee, how old am I? How old must he be? By now. But he's still in the game. He's got his hands still in the game, and I'm really pleased that that's the case. So I tell other stories that are very similar in the book. That if you're interested, just go to the Chapman Company Story.com, and you'll see that little website there with my picture on it in younger days. Yeah, and it actually is a picture from a magazine. I've been blessed. I've been on a bunch of magazine covers and stuff. How do you say that humbly? But it's true. And I just took that one and I used it. Because back in the day, you can almost see my intensity. I've lightened up a little bit from that time, but I like just want to pass on things and how they happened, and because it's stories like that I'm hopeful. You might say, well, look, you might be in college right now. I said, why should I even pay attention to who my instructors are? Because they can be helpful to you. For me, it kind of happened by accident, but there are guys that if they knew that they could, that this guy could have set him up with a job at Pete Marwick, they'd have been bringing him lunch every day. They kind of encourage him, pick me. But I kind of didn't know that, and I was just trying to get a good grade, get the knowledge, and get a grade. I hadn't really thought that that he might help me in some way. And there's so many people that college professors have done that for. Maybe they just know that when you're young and you're just trying to figure things out, you don't know it all. But what he did for me, I will never forget. And I'm just eternally grateful that he saw something that made him say, well, look, let me take you out to dinner and see if I can put this on you right. But if you had said, I'm happy to get the free meal and to have gotten that from him. But I would have done it even if he had said it after class. Hey, Nate, I'm going to set you up a job. But I'm thinking in retrospect, he didn't want the other folks to know, because if he had put it out there like that after class, and people have heard that, then maybe someone will have thought that he was being biased toward me or something like that, or other people who will say, well, how about me too, or something like that. And none of that happened. And none of the other people from my class ended up at Pete Marwick. None of my class in the accounting. So, as far as I know, maybe he did do it for some others. I don't know. But I know that no one I went to school with ended up there with a job. So, I'm just thankful that he saw something in me and was willing to take his time. And maybe that story is a little bit for you teachers out there to show how you can change a life and just take some time and put a little interest in taking some time. In kind of being interested in some people, that might be something that could change a person's life and change all the people who they affect. Because it was. I don't think that if I just called up Pete Marwick, said I'd like to send you my resume, I don't think it would have had the same effect. And if I had just gone through the traditional process of like sending out 10 resumes, I don't think it would have happened. But because my accounting professor knew someone there and that he was speaking up for me, it's kind of got me through the door. And from there, they were almost predisposed to give me a positive look, not to give me a job. I had to kind of go get it, as you hear me say. But even then, maybe I just like people. So if you're going to meet me, I'm going to be the kind of guy that you hear me talk. So I always like to let me. I'm technically competent, but a lot of technically competent people aren't good with people. And I like to think I'm both. Both technically competent. I can come in here and make it happen. Whatever it is, I can kind of make it happen. At the same time, I'm pretty. I like people. I don't mind chewing the fat with you, and I'm very interested in other people's stories. So, as you hear me say all the time, that this is kind of an evolution of that. That this is an evolution of my striking up conversations with people. And to just hear about different things that might be going on in their lives. Sometimes this might sound a little hokey, but sometimes I'll cry with you. I mean, sometimes people's stories will touch me to the point I'll start getting teary-eyed. And when people talk about, death in their family, or people talk about things that have moved them, I'll find myself to get a little teary-eyed. It's like, oh, Nate, that's kind of hokey, but I just like, I feel it. Bill Clinton used to say, I feel your pain. And if we're talking about a story and you got something that's going on, I can sense it. I'm right there with you, where you are with the story. And it certainly wasn't that long ago. I was kind of with a person that was telling me that, about how they never expected to have children, and they're older and they ended up having a child late in life, and the effect of it. And at the same time, their father died, and, got to see the child. Just one of those stories that really, I was right there with them, as a person who, I was an only child. I used to say that the only thing I feared in this world were my parents dying. And, as an only child, someone who's, now buried both his parents, that was it. That was like the toughest thing. So whenever somebody tells me a story and it involves something like that, heck, I feel you. I know exactly where you're at. So this kind of is an evolution of that. I can talk about business. I know a lot about various business kinds of things and tech things, and certainly we can talk about that. And a lot of my MIT cohort, I just keep mispronouncing that word. I know my friend out there, we were talking about it the other night, how I just keep fumbling that word. That's why I tried it again. I'm going to try it one more time. He says I should let it go. Cohort. Man, why? I know the word. It's like something you hear in your head, and I'm not getting it out. But hey, I'm going to move on. He says, I just keep it going. Cohort. There. That was much better. It just snuck out. You see how it just snuck out on me? Cohort. It's not perfect. Yeah, but hey, I'm just not going to do it. He said, Nate, you just hold on to it a little bit too long to be out there broadcasting. But, so, some of my friends at MIT, we talk about business entrepreneurship. Everybody's got something different that they're doing. I'm certainly pleased when I see folks here, and some of my friends from UMBC, periodically will buzz in. Certainly get the folks have done great things. Dr. Freeman Hrabowski, who's president out there, really has done a fantastic job, and creating a whole environment with their accounting professor. He hires people who are like that, who would take an interest in your life, and didn't just a couple of phone calls. But for me, wow, it it would make it made all the difference, because I don't even know if I had went the law school route, if I would have become an investment banker and a whole bit and taking companies public in the history books or doing this and that. I don't know if that would have happened the way that it did happen. I praise God, and those types of things. So that kind of stuff, I say all that to say there's so many stories that I have, doing business in other states. How do you do business? How you do business in LA or do business in, New Jersey or wherever you might, because that's why I say I was on the road a lot. That's why I'm taking this show on the road. So that people, it's great that we can do the whole remote thing, but I double it up. If I'm remote and you're remote. So if I'm sitting in Boston and I'm interviewing someone in San Diego, well, that's double duty remote. And that's kind of what I want to do. So one day you'll see me and I got the map behind me and everything's going well. And another day I just got to figure out how to deal with these lights, because you don't see the lighting setup that we have, but it's pretty major. Because, truth be told, African Americans, dark people, we absorb light. So we need a lot of light to kind of lighten us. So it's pretty heavy duty in here for you to see me. I'm just joking, but no, I'm serious. I take these lights on the road. I can't really count always on natural light. But we will be hitting the road. Oh, let's see here. Breaking news. We got a local story. Wow. Kathy Pugh was fired. Our mayor has just fired the police commissioner. Wow. Isn't that something? I'm kind of shocked. I thought those two were tight, but what can you say? That's what happens in the ebb and flow of it. I've got, I certainly have known my fair share of friends who were police commissioners, starting with the great, I won't mention all these local names. Most of you are hearing this out of state. It doesn't mean anything to you. That was kind of a local thing of, I'm getting that local news. But very interesting. But having said that, when I want to hear your stories. Where are your stories? I'm telling you mine. Why don't you guys, send me some more comments and come on in. I have yet to be able to scare up that person who's going to click on that link, which, by the way, since Dr. Wilson was on, I know works. It wasn't one of those things where, oh man, you send out a bad link. I know it works because we got somebody who was here, and he came in through the process that I want you to come in through. And I want some of my southern friends in Florida and throughout the South to come in, as well as my friends up in New Hampshire. And now, I may have to spend some time after this is over, calling some of my friends to say, hey, I want to see you participate in the whole two-way talk thing. So chances are I will do that. So my hope is that we can really elaborate and expand this two-way talk format. Now, I know it's different. It's not like the radio where you had two-way talk, but just the same, that it is something that that really takes it to another level, that you can really get your story, your voice out there in a way that is not really possible in radio. You hear me talk about my friends who do a little two-way talk in sports, and it is like 15 minutes of sports and an hour of commercials. But this is not like that. We're not going to be running in commercials. We're just going to be talking. We're just going to be sharing with you information and talking to you about stories, hopefully bringing people on board who are interesting. That's my hope. And just enjoying our time together. Also, a few news stories that I think are things that you might want to take a look at. My friend Derek and all, he inspired me to maybe get a little music going. But you know how Facebook is. For you Facebook administrators out there, I got to make sure I got the rights to it, or Facebook will put the kibosh on you and block you and throw you out into what they call the Facebook jail or something like that. And I'm not trying to see that happen. So I won't even sing a song here. I sung my little military song, but I don't think that's a problem. You guys don't know how tempted I was to break into another military song. So, You know how it is when you start going back to the old days and things just kind of come to mind of what you used to do. I mean, I can, in my mind's eye, I can also just see myself marching those fatigues. And as a young man, quite a few pounds less and more hair than what I have today. And just, something that made such an imprint, such an implant, that whole military side. So that's why I really like doing things to help veterans. And next month, I said we're going to do some health things, but some of that's going to be targeted toward helping veterans as well. I mentioned to you the path of how I ended up getting the medical marijuana card because I had a couple health challenges and I qualified. And now that I have it, I probably might just reach out to some of those dispensaries. I just need to invest and buy some. I don't think I want any right now, per se, but hey. If they put chocolate on it, I'm sure I'd eat it. If they put it in chocolate, I eat too much chocolate. I've brought in some hot chocolate mix. Since it's cold, nothing better than a little hot chocolate. Little marshmallows on top. I got it all in here. And so my girlfriend, she thought about it, and I'm glad she did. So we can do a little something with that. Of course, I'm trying to lose weight as well. So can't have too much of it. Yeah, but yes, this was a good few days as far as that goes too. Just to kind of put that out there. And what I'm finding, and now here it is. I'll put the challenge out there. And Daisy, let's see. Let's put Daisy out there. She says here that she's got a comment. She says, I think all you have to do is say, I don't own the rights to this song. Then you won't get in any trouble. You put that on the screen. But you're doing good without the music, in my opinion. But I got to tell you, Daisy, what I want to do is I want to channel my inner Ellen. You see how Ellen does it at the beginning of her show? And she's got people. I want to do that with a little flavor. I'm thinking maybe when you come into the show that you'll come in with a little flavor and then we'll pop into a serious subject. You'll pop right into, some crisis or something like that, which is a little different than Morning Joe. And they got their little theme music. I can't really recall it, but I think they do. Where they just don't go boom into Morning Joe, do they? Yeah, I don't recall. Since I've been doing this, I haven't really watched it. Just boom into CNN with Chris Cuomo. But I'm going to investigate it and see, and hopefully you're right. If I just have to say I don't own the rights to the song without one day you come into the site and then it says the we is in the jail, the Facebook jail, you can no longer watch this. I don't want that to happen. So I have to research it a little bit, but if that's all it takes, I actually do have a song in mind that over the weekend, if I can acquire it or if it's okay, I might just play it. I don't know how many times. You guys can give me some feedback. But you want me to come in dancing. Here's what Daisy says, that I should come in dancing. Yes, but I don't want to dance alone. See, if I do that, I want to get the feeling that you guys are coming in and dancing with me. Because I'll dance now. I like people. I'm not unafraid. I'm not one of these shy people in that sense. That's long gone from my personality. I'll get out there and start the combo dance, or if there's the line dance, or we're doing the what is it, the waddle or something like that, I'm right there. So I thought I'd add a little bit of difference to it. It seems to be working for Ellen. I'm not Ellen. I know somebody is saying, you're not Chris Cuomo, you're not Morning Joe. Yes, I'm Nate. And I got to add my flavor to it. Just a little bit, let's see the comment. Let's see, she thinks that, let's see, she says, yeah, a little music at the top of the show. Yeah, well, you know what really inspired me, Daisy, with the whole music thing is I was remarking yesterday about the fact that when you get up like I do, and you rarely get 8 hours sleep, when I turn on the music on the radio, I'd like to hear something jumping. I don't want to hear just some old, smooth music and the kind of stuff. I'm trying to make sure I'm awake. When I get into that car, I'm awake normally. I'm a morning person, but that music will put you back to sleep. So this kind of stuff that they have, that slow, groove that they have on the radio, and I keep going. So trying to find somebody. So I said, I'm just going to have to play my own music. I'm just going to download my YouTube stuff and play my own music and get myself going and all that the way I do when I'm walking. And then I started to say, I like what Ellen does. It's kind of her little thing. I need to channel my inner Ellen. Now, admittedly, other people don't do it. I watch other people's shows. Steve Harvey doesn't do it. That's for sure. I mean, he does his thing. But I think I can add a little flavor to it. I think Steve could have added a little flavor to it. We've got Earl Bravo, who's just joined us here as well. So, I'm hopeful that I'll be able to get something going and get a little, just to try it out. And you guys can give me your thoughts on how it goes over out there. But it certainly would help me, if I'm in here, jamming a little bit to start the show off, got my tea and cup via, and sometimes coffee. I'll go back and forth. This happens to be green tea today. No, I'm sorry. It's peppermint tea. Yesterday was green tea. I kind of go with whatever I have. I don't have any specialty. It's whatever I have. Actually, here in the office environment, the green tea is free. Peppermint tea is mine. So I'll go with whatever. I like their green tea here as well. So it's pretty strong. But, I kind of get myself perking with that music. And so it's more than just having a theme song or trying to establish my brand or something like that. It's more, hey, plus I see you sent me a photo. Yeah. It's more to, just kind of what I feel like doing. I guess I should be more strategic. Nate, what do you want your brand to be? This brand music, you got your, bring it all together. How's it fit with your logo and how's it fit with, what you're going to put on your cards and stuff like that. So, if I was advising you, I'd tell you to be more strategic, that it's all part of a plan and all that, what you're going to do. And it may well be, but there's this, I may just do this. And then I'll jump back into the traditional. You guys give me some feedback because that's what it's all about. You all give me some feedback and letting me know what you think one way or the other. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to look into it probably today. Plus has just sent me an example of what the DJs use as a music disclaimer. Okay. That being the case, and really the idea was a combination of things. My friend Derek Burnett, who's heading up the show Culturally Conscious Narrative, he was talking about some music, and I was kind of thinking about how I would make it happen. What system? Because as I mentioned, this thing is going out on 2 different systems. So how to put up one piece of music and put it out on 2 different systems, and we'll have even more systems in the future. The best way to do that. And I kind of thought up a way to do it, but it's basic. It's old school. I had to go old school to make it happen through this mic, probably not to get too much into that. But so it can be done. That's the whole thing. You think about it. And I'm kind of one of those people. Once this is my mind, he's asked me about it. I'm going to figure out how I can make it happen. And so I think I figured out how to make it happen. Now with Plus, with Daisy, I may be able to kind of, get the music rolling just at least for, I'm only talking about, 20 seconds or something like that. I don't know what Ellen does this whole thing where she's maybe a couple of minutes of the opening show, but there's not enough room in here for me to do that. And maybe I should drop a few more pounds before I really do it. You may not appreciate me doing it, but I do have this sweater. I can close it up, just do my thing a little bit, So, but we'll see. We'll see. Because as I started to get into, the whole weight loss thing, for the last few days, I think I told you, I want to drop 80 pounds. And as Daisy said, she's like, wow, it's like dropping a whole person, like dropping a little human being. You like trying to drop, go in on me. You're trying to drop like an elementary school child, so. Thank you. Tony Robbins there, I felt a lot better after that. I'm just joking, Daisy. You know that. And so, but it's the truth. So I said, you know what I'm going to have to do is control what I eat. So I start bringing my lunches. And my girlfriend put them together, and so, and certainly, what happens is this. I have a little bit for breakfast before I start, the show. So I try not to do stuff on empty stomach and get my little fuel going. I got a little bit of it, and then I eat the rest for lunch. But to be honest with you, when I leave here at 8 and I don't get home till 9, I don't feel like eating dinner, knowing I got to get back up at 3. So it's working. I'm actually eating 2 meals a day that are 2 good meals. Because it's a really good salad with spinach and onions and tomatoes and broccoli and stuff in it, if you like that kind of stuff, and I do. And so it's like a really good salad. And it fills me up and gets me through the day. And by the time I leave here, at night, I just don't feel like eating. And I can tell that it's working. So we'll see if I can stay with it and see what happens. I've dropped that much weight before, because this is not how I was a few years ago. I put on weight. So as some of my friends will tell you, and kind of like what I shared with you before, once you dropped it, you feel like you can do it again once you've done it once. And I certainly feel like I can. And then, but once you do it, you kind of maintain that life. I mean, I can't drop the weight and then start eating steak all the time. Yeah, probably. Where you go, and you're trying to lose it. So I know you didn't go in that deep. I'm just kind of talking, just kind of playing. So my hope is that wow, it's kind of funny. I'm looking, every once in a while, this system is fine, and then I look over here and this went out for like 2 seconds, didn't do anything. It just went out, came back. That's technology for you. So. But that's a part of it, just to let you know. So, I'm when you're trying to drop that weight, actually, I have clothes at like different weights. So I don't really have to buy anything. I just have to start wearing my 10-pound less clothes, and then my 30 pounds less clothes, because I have them at different weights, and just ultimately get back to that weight, which my friend, who is a vegetarian, my friend out there, has come in a couple times. What he says is his weight. He's actually very thin. He doesn't see himself that way, but he's very thin. Yeah, and he's been that way, he says, forever. I was his size in junior high school. So, but, get down to that weight and then figure out, I guess at a certain point you stop losing. You just have to eat the same thing. But eating salads 5 days a week for the rest of my life, I'm not sure about that. So, but we'll see. We'll see how that's going. And just you guys who are like me out there, who are trying to drop a few pounds, again, I always say guys in the generic sense of men and women who are trying to drop a few pounds can kind of see me. But I put it out there now, so I got to kind of stay with it. People ask me, how are you doing on that weight? And I'm thinking I want to go and get, some fries or something, some fried chicken, to be honest. So that's not really a cultural thing. I happen to like fried chicken. So but I can't stay with it. I stay away from it because I'm kind of defeating the purpose. Drink plenty of water. That's kind of the other thing. I got this big jug of water. Be honest, I haven't filled it in a week. But I'm going to get back on it. I'm going to get to it. Do it. You drop it down. You be healthier. Move faster. Get more energy. Especially when I'm starting to get around the country a little bit. So you all, I can interact with you and kind of, speedily get to this place or that place. So I'm excited about that. And that's just one of the many things that are kind of on my agenda to get done. And so, that's kind of all my stories, what I'm kind of doing. Give me some stories. Come on, give it back. Come on, give me some stuff back. This is two-way talk. And you have the ability either through what I have here, which are the comments that you have on Facebook. And look, we got Lewis Chapman. He's out there watching. He's new to the broadcast. Happy to have you, Lewis. Or you can come in through that link. It's on the we, and then we will see you. You become actually a part of the broadcast, and which I'd love to have you to join me and to be an actual part of the broadcast. That would be fantastic. So I'm hopeful that you'll be able to do that. This is our second week in doing this, and we've just made major strides. Because you don't know how the technology is going to work until you put it out there. And each time we kind of learn. I'm so thankful to people like Daisy and Earl and Pless and Derek and Donnie and others and who have joined the broadcast and who give me feedback of how we can make this thing better, how I can kind of get out to you a little bit better. So I'm really pleased with that. Now, we're going to be coming to the close here on Friday. So I want everybody to have a great weekend. And wherever you are in the country, to kind of take some time to have a good time, and certainly make some time to smile, because that will help you in any way. Help you feel better, help your health, and all the rest of it. And it's just a good thing to do. So this is Mornings with Nate. We run from 6 to 9 approximately, because can't go beyond 3 hours. Or Facebook will, cut you. So we try not to come right up against the wall. But so. This is Mornings with Nate. I really enjoyed this week. I've enjoyed the couple of weeks so far. We're going to be here at 6 a.m. on Monday morning and running from 6 to 9. All your friends, look forward to my call because I want more calls coming in and more comments. All my buddies who I see, you know how it is on Facebook. You can kind of see who's on Facebook. I want all those people to be coming in here and kind of indicating some questions, even if you just say,